pathway in sustainability. I hope I'm still very much audible to everyone.
Yes, you are, sir.
All right, thank you. Yes, identifying the niche. Yeah, it's important that you identify your niche. And for you to be able to do that as a professional or as an individual, what I always recommend is that you have to look inward for you to be able to extrude outward. And that means that you need to explore your own level of interest, analyze activities that you enjoy, subjects you love learning, and contents that you regularly consume. Look at your record, history record of what are the things that you currently Google search most of the time, or the type of novels that you like to read. It could be the type of movies that you like to watch. It could be anything. It could be your hobby. What do you like to do generally, right? That interest is very important. So now when you identify this interest, you're now talking about bringing that interest in alignment with your professional stand. So now look at how you can craft out something that represents your profession alongside with your interest. Then when you're able to do that, then you now look for solvable problems within this context. Now, the solvable problems is like determining challenges that uniquely position you to address within your field, right? These solvable problems is very critical to you as a professional, to you as an individual that want to lead in your industry, because if you have to lead in your industry, you have to be able to solve a problem. You must bring in value. So that value proposition is very critical. When you're trying to identify your niche, it's important that you now start looking at what value will this niche bring into my industry, right? And that's looking at identifying solvable problems. So now when you're able to identify some of these problems, you will now be talking about, we need to research on the market need. I've identified a problem. Is there a need for this problem in the industry? Where I am currently, I am an architect and I play within the construction industry in Nigeria. Do we currently have this problem that I have identified in Nigeria? And if I'm bringing to fore a solution in this space, would it matter in my industry, right? That's why it's also very important to now research on market need for the identified solution that you have identified, right? And of course, it's important that you're looking at all of this in the area of sustainability, because what we're discussing today is basically on sustainability professional. Then when you're able to at least find that, the market needs this or the industry needs this, then you will now probably move from that point to saying that, we need to now assess the profitability level of the problem and the solution that you're bringing to fore. Now evaluate the potential income streams. Do you want to now get a job, or do you want to start up something? You want to probably kickstart something of your own, maybe an initiative, maybe a business, maybe a corporation, maybe a company. It could be anything, right? That's another level of now assessing the profitability level of what you've identified. Now this all speaks to identifying your niche and choosing it rightly. Beyond that, I spoke about developing required skills. So now this is very critical for professionals. You're not just going to be blabbing about the expertise you have without having something to show for it. And that's why here it's very important for you to develop your required skills. Professional qualifications are very, very important. Professional qualification means that you are pursuing advanced training, you are getting certifications in some credible areas that you have already identified as part of your niche, right? That's king. Then you're now looking at how to build competence. While you get certifications, while you're trying to build that level of professional qualification, it's also important that you now start to build competence. And There are different ways to build competence. As an emerging professional, you might be looking in the direction of internships, right? Volunteer for some level of activities within some organizations that you know that this particularly aligns with my interest because you have already identified your niche. So now, if you find organizations that are doing something in that space, that are already in the market doing real life or solving real life problems in that space, you want to intern with them or volunteer with them so that you can get competence. You can build your own level of expertise. That's very important. Then you can as well still prospect for jobs. If you're able to get jobs in that space, I mean, that's even wonderful because internship or volunteering might probably not give you much money as you would. But if you now get a job opportunity in that line of interest, it gives you even more leverage because you get to earn and you get to also build competence, which is very important. Then enhance ability. The ability means that you need to continue to develop your knowledge, your communication, your flexibility, teamwork, and self-motivation, and of course, the leadership skill. As emerging professionals, you don't want to stay at the bottom for the rest of your life. You want to, at some point in time, begin to navigate the ladder, right? Up to the point where you become an industry leader. Because that's the goal. You want to become an industry leader. So for that to happen, you have to start enhancing your abilities. The knowledge that you're gaining, you have to develop on it. Then communications, very important as a professional. Nobody is going to blow your own trumpet for you. So you have to be big on communication. Communicate effectively the qualifications you have been able to gain. Communicate effectively the competence that you've been able to also achieve in that area, because that's how people will know that you have actually built something in that space. If you keep quiet, nobody's going to know. And flexibility is also very important. Be flexible in the sense that the niche you identify could eventually become a side to the major thing that would actually become your area of expertise. So be ready to be flexible, to also diversify into some other few areas of emerging markets. So if you see things that are new and emerging, don't just be rigid and saying that I've identified my niche and I'm not going back on this, right? You should be flexible in such a way that you can develop newer tradings, newer knowledge on some emerging issues as well, right? Then, also, of course, it's important that you build teamwork abilities and you motivate yourself. That's critical for a professional. If you don't, nobody's going to motivate you for you. So you have to be able to motivate yourself to be able to do things and build leadership skills. If you want to be an industry leader, you have to be able to build leadership skills. You have to walk the path. That's very important. Then technical skill is king. While you're building qualifications, while you're building competence, you also must know your craft. Master your specialized tools that is required for you to deliver on the job, right? Is very important. So you must be technically sound, while qualification and certification is also speaking for you. Now, when you've been able to get to that level, then you want to probably propel yourself forward a little more by attaining the Pro Max level. Pro Max level means, which was one of the things I just concluded with, mastering your craft. So you now want to develop deep expertise through continuous practice and specialized knowledge. Then you want to talk about seeking mentorship. That's also very important. If you have industry leaders in the space and you're finding it hard to navigate your path, why don't you reach out to them? Let them guide you right. Seek mentorship is very important. Let them put you through the right path. They've gone through that path, so they have more knowledge about how you can navigate it without having to spend a number of years that they have spent in navigating it. And that's one beautiful thing about mentorship. Then embrace challenges. I know that a whole lot of people would rather sit on their job because of the fear of the unknown, right? But in this conversation today, I will encourage you as emerging sustainability professional, I will encourage you to always take risks, calculated risks. Very important. Embrace challenges. Go for the difficult things within the space. Go for difficult projects. Don't just sit with what you know how to do best from 8 to 5. A reiterated task that whether you like it or not, this is going to be a continuous thing. You do it on Monday, you come back on Tuesday and do the same thing, and come back on Wednesday and do the same thing. Challenge yourself. Go outside that horizon. Move beyond that point to take on projects that are going to push your boundaries. And of course, they are going to now possibly demonstrate the advanced capability that you hold. So that's a critical thing. I'm tempted to talk about or to probably give you a story, but at this point, I don't think we have the time and the luxury of time, right? And while you're doing all of this, it's also very important that you measure your progress. If you're doing a whole lot of different things and you are not calculating how to probably move from level 1 to level 2 and tracking those improvements to see with clear metrics that you have actually moved from level 1 to level 2, then you just moving with it's like moving like a vehicle without a driver, right? It could crash. Anything can happen. But when you measure your progress, you are coordinated. That means you've got a driver for the vehicle. When you see a bridge ahead, you stay to the path and you cross the bridge easily. Unlike somebody who does not measure, everything just goes as it comes. But at the end of the day, you would not have that strategic performance data that you need to use to know whether you're actually doing what you have set out to do and you're achieving those things and you're moving from level A to level B. And that's also very important. So now I talked about building managerial skill, and here I just put out some few things. In building managerial skills, it's important to have strategic decision-making skills, right? You need to have team leadership skills. You need to have resource management skills and communication skills. I think I've talked on the communication skills. Resource management means that you must be able to optimize allocation of human and financial, and of course, material resource to achieve sustainability targets and efficiency. That's important. You must be able to guide diverse teams effectively towards sustainability objective, because remember, you are moving from being an emerging leader to a manager or a leader in the space. So it's important for you to be able to guide team effectively while you are also fostering collaboration and innovation. Then the same applies to decision making. You must be able to develop ability to make informed decisions, especially considering long-term sustainability impact and organizational goals, because this makes you relevant in the space and as a leader. Now, talking about building a brand, build and sustaining the brand. I think this is the most critical slide, the most critical part of the entire conversation today. And every individual image that you see on this slide actually matters, right? Building your brand is important, but to sustain that brand is much more important. And some of the key things I've identified here are avoiding premature exposure. That's number one, and that's very critical. So if you are emerging and you don't have required skill set, don't expose yourself prematurely, because that could be the end of you as a professional in the space. Not like be the end of you per se, but that could be, or that could dent on your credibility as a professional. And once an opportunity is gone, they say it may never be regained, right? So premature exposure might subject you to losing credible opportunities now and for the future. So you need to be able to avoid it. If you look at the picture that I put here, you would see two babies. One is premature and one is properly matured. If you look at the two exposure, when both of them were exposed, nobody wants this first one. Of course, nobody wants it, because that baby has been exposed prematurely. And that's exactly what you want to avoid while you're trying to build and sustain your brand. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to get the microphone, get on the stage and fumble. Everybody tags you as somebody who does not have who doesn't have anything upstairs, right? So even if they see you tomorrow, well, it probably might have changed. You might now have credible things to say, but people will still continue to tag you along as somebody who does not really have something to say. So it's going to be difficult for them to hand you over the microphone the second time. Now, that's exactly what happens when you avoid or when you expose yourself prematurely. And I think that message is well passed across. Then the second one is to be original. While you're trying to build a brand, while you're trying to be a sustainable professional, you want to emerge and lead in the space, you have to be original. If you look at the two images that are under this number 2, you see that they develop unique identity. The first one, amongst several blues, one stood out by saying, I don't just want to follow the crowd, I want to stand out. And that's very important. So standing out is king. Be original. Stand out among the crowd. Do things specifically as you would do it, not as everybody thinks you should do it, right? Be you and project yourself. And if you look at the watermelon, there is a cube watermelon, right? It decides not to copy everybody. It decides to be unique. If anyone walks into the room, the first person that will be recognized is the cube watermelon, because every other watermelon looks the same. So that one that looks different is going to be spotlighted first. And that's what it means to be unique. Be unique in a good way, not in a bad way, definitely, right? So develop unique identity rather than copying competitors to stand out in the sustainability marketplace. That's very important. And the third one is for you to study your competitors. It's important to know that you're not the only one in the market. You're not the only professional, right? There are 1,001 other professionals. So analyze competitors, analyze other professionals. What have they got that I do not have that will give them more leverage than me? If you need to get those type of certification, you get it and get more that will put you at the edge, right? Because you also want to leverage, you want to move up the ladder. So you need to know that sustainability and that competitors exist. And you need to be able to analyze their strategies to identify the market gap and opportunity for you to be able to scale in that space, right? Then the fourth one is for you to solve bigger problems. The more bigger problem you solve, the better you become as an industry leader, and the more relevant you become in the industry as well, which is very important. So now continuously expand capabilities to address more complex sustainability challenges and remain relevant. Very important and king. Now, when you've at least gone through all of these stages, then you want to test run and launch. Start with small scale implementation to validate your concept before full market launch. That is to say, if you want to project, you need to pilot your idea on a smaller scale. Do it and validate that concept. Be sure that your concept actually works. Then you can go full blown into the aspect of getting to the market commitment, right? Then it's also very important for you to gather feedbacks. When you're doing things, when maybe on a job, internship, volunteering, it could be anything, always endeavor to collect the people you are interfacing with, get feedback of how you have done. As a professional, it's very important. You need to know the interfacing between you and your clients, the interfacing between you and others. You need to know what the feedback from them looks like, right? They probably might consider you a very outstanding professional. Get those feedback. That means you're doing something right. Then you put more energy into doing it. If you're doing something wrong and you get those type of feedback, you unlearn what you have learned and relearn newer things, right? And you continue to grow in the space. So feedback is very critical and king. for you to develop as a professional. Then adjust your strategy. When you get feedbacks, some things are not exactly as you intend it to be, then you, what's it called? Is my screen still showing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is.
Okay. Yeah, so I said adjust strategy. So now when you get feedbacks, you begin to modify whatever it is that you already have on ground based on the feedback. If you need to put or intensify more energy on some certain areas that you feel these are more like my strength, and I'm getting good feedbacks and vibe from this angle, then you want to put more energy into that side, right? So you now begin to adjust those strategy and begin to lean towards what works for you as a professional. Then those adjustments, you test them, right? And you launch them out. Before you know what's happening, you're already a full-blown professional in the space. Then you have your full market entry. You have to be confident and you introduce yourself into the market, not necessarily having to make what's it called? Like a product launch. This is not a product launch kind of full market entry. It's like confidently trying to become a consultant in the space, taking on jobs irrespective of whether you're on a job, whether you're volunteering, or whether you're doing things. Now trying to confidently work as a sustainability consultant or work in the areas where you have created a niche towards, right? So that's the full market entry here. Now begin to build client base and begin to forge ahead in your profession. So now what I've talked about all of the key or different things that we need as sustainability professionals to be able to grow. These are soft launch, things that you require to look inwards, re-strategize, and reposition yourself. It's also very important to now look at some key career paths, especially when we're talking about sustainable construction and you as a sustainability professional. So this is, I think I've niched it down towards the construction industry specifically, and I have just mentioned some few, so I'll highlight them here. The first one is Green Building Certification Specialist. So this is a path. You could identify this pathway as something that actually interests you, as something you would like to do, right? As a specialist in the green building certification space, you probably would be evaluating buildings against sustainability standards, verifying documentation, conduct site inspections, and guide them through certification processes, right? That's like the roles and responsibility of a specialist in the space. So you now begin to look at, oh, okay, for me to be able to play in this space, what are the required qualifications for me? And I've put some here. You could get EDGE certification, LEED certification, BREEAM certification, Green Star certification, Green Card certification, or DGMB certification. Join GBCN. You're already in GBCN, right? It's part of things that you need as a professional to have some of the level of qualifications. Then take certification exams. Become an international consultant on these certification platforms, right? It's very important. Then you now look at how to probably grow these opportunities. Advanced parts include maybe becoming a senior consultant in the space, or maybe you want to start with a technical role. It could be that you want to now go for being in the director position space, right? All of this also now means that you need to now walk the path and get along as you go. Then another pathway is sustainable material consultant. So you could look in this pathway as well. There's a lot of gap in this space. The responsibility of a sustainable material consultant is somebody who actually evaluates, recommend, and implements sustainable building material to reduce environmental impact, while, of course, maintaining the structural integrity and performance requirements of those particular buildings and structures, right? So now, there are going to be different qualifications that you would need. The most important thing, like I have initially said, is you need to now look at those qualifications and get certified. Combine material science knowledge with construction expertise requiring certification in sustainable building practice, and understanding environmental assessment methodologies. And you can take certifications in this space as well. Then you need to now start having impact on projects. Now start working on different projects. Then you can talk about these projects that I worked on. We're able to reduce also amount of carbon footprint. We're able to minimize waste from this side. We're able to enhance building performance based on the fact that you are a sustainable material consultant, right? So now all of this now begin to make sense as you develop or emerge as a professional, because the more you now do some of or hands-on projects, the more you now become relevant to talk about what you've been able to achieve in the industry as well. You could also look in the direction of becoming an environmental compliance manager. An environmental compliance manager ensures construction projects meet environmental regulations, right? Requiring expertise in environmental law, permitting processes, and risk management. And some of the framework might endear you towards maybe getting ISO certifications as a professional, and probably doing some certifications on green building codes. It could be energy efficiency code, it could be designing for energy efficiency, or it could be anything. Getting some certification in that space that specifically relate with environmental compliance, environmental law, and risk assessment as well, right? And just like I said here, I said this role offers advancement paths to sustainability directors positions. And this could go beyond the construction industry generally. So if you are looking in this direction, you could play in several industries across the entire economy of any country. And there is increasing demand as construction firms as well are beginning to prioritize environmental responsibility and regulatory compliance. Now, another is becoming a circular economy strategist and ESG manager. And it's also very important to note that some of these key career paths that I'm talking about here, they also have different level of bullet points below them. That is to say, when you're talking about circular economy strategist and ESG manager, there are different niche that you could carve out under this alone, different pathway. Some might want to go the environmental way, some might want to go the social way, some might want to go the governance way, some might want to go the economy way. So there are different pathways even under this particular subheading, right? So that we're looking at this type of people or this type of professionals, they are the ones who develop strategies to minimize construction waste through innovative designs, material selection, and efficient the construction process. So we are talking about construction, demolition, waste, and all of that. Then they are the experts who track and optimize the life cycle of construction materials, ensuring resources are reused, recycled, and reclaimed effectively. And you're looking at LCA, life cycle assessment specialist, you're looking at LCC, life cycle costing specialist, and all of those type of roles and responsibility hinged under this particular subheading. Then, of course, the design for disassembly consulting. That's the one that has to do with construction, demolition, waste, and all of that. Then you could also look in the direction of being the net zero building designer. To be a designer in this space, you are looking at combining your architectural knowledge. If you're an architect, you want to combine it with energy modeling expertise to create structure that produce as much energy as they consume, right? So it's basically in that space of energy, sustainable material, and all of that, at least. It also have an inch towards green building consulting, but this is also a narrowed down expertise. And it is an expert role for the future. You begin to see people actually becoming a net zero building designer. That's what they do, right? That's what they are known for. So if you're talking about net zero building, they are the set of individuals you want to point to. And they are the people that probably incorporate renewable energy system, efficient heating, ventilation, and air cooling system, and smart technologies to achieve net zero energy performance in construction projects. Then I think this probably might be the last one, which is resilience planning experts. And resilient planning experts, it could be urban resilience, it could be anything. Urban resilience designers are under this. There are several disaster risk assessment officers. You talk about infrastructure adaptation planning officers or experts. The recovery system designers are also part of resilience planning experts. So this is also a very good niche. It's a new and emerging role, and there are specialists that evaluate construction vulnerability to natural disasters, strategies to enhance structural integrities against climate-related threats. Then, of course, looking at environmental stress, looking at extreme weather events on your construction project, talking about creating built environment with rapid restoration capabilities, right? Incorporating redundant system and modular components for post-disaster continuity. This is what these experts specialize in, and that's what they do. And it's an emerging role, it's an emerging expert area. So you can also want to look in this direction and say, okay, let me start a niche within this space. And of course, don't forget, I've talked about when you're talking about finding your niche, you want to look at the market. You want to look at for the need. Is there need in the market as of today? Will there be need in the market for the future? Now, because these are the conversations you now want to have. If it is available today, get into it. If it's going to be for the future, get into it. But if it does not answer the present and the future, if it's answering the matter of the past, then of course, you know that it's a time for you to let it go. And that probably will be the end of my little presentation. Thank you everyone for listening. I think I'll probably want to stop sharing to take some questions if there are, maybe some few, if I still have time for that.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We've had an amazing session. We are open to have the questions after the session. Is that okay, sir?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So from QSOMI, we have been able to learn how to identify our niche in the market, how to develop the required skills with our niche, and how to master our crafts to attaining the pro level, how to build our managerial skills, and how to build and sustain our brand, and questioning and launching the brand. Thank you so much for your amazing insights, sir. Okay, we have Professor Zulfikar Adamu, popularly known as Professor Z. Sir, can you confirm that you're on board?
Yes, I'm on board.
Okay, sir.
Okay, good morning, Professor Z.
All right, can you let me share my screen?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir, please go ahead and share your screen. While Professor Z is preparing his presentation, for all those who are here, if you have any question, you can drop them in the chat, except for those that want to ask their questions themselves. But we can just keep dropping our questions in the chat. The moderator will go to the chat, our questions when time for question and answer, and we'll take that immediately after Professor Z's presentation. Thank you very much.
Let me know if you can see my screen, please.
Okay, I have allowed access.
Not yet, sir.
A second. Hold on a second. I think what's going on. I'm using two screens, so I'm going to have to share the correct one.
Okay, sir. In the meantime, I'll be introducing Professor Z. Professor Z is an associate professor of strategic IT in construction at London South Bank University. He is the strategic advisory chairman of BIM Africa. He is an expert in digital construction technologies, including building information modeling, smart buildings, IoT, and construction data analytics. Through his research and leadership, he focuses on advancing sustainable, efficient, and technology-driven infrastructure. He has mentored professionals and is supporting the adoption of innovative construction practices across Africa and beyond. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
You're welcome. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
All right. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And so I was asked to come and give you a little talk about crafting career pathways in sustainability. And apparently, myself and the other gentleman, we have quite a lot that we're going to say in common. So this is just a little bit of feedback to the organizers. Next time, give us specific areas of focus, because I'm not going to repeat what he said, thankfully, but I think there's always that risk that we may end up talking about the same thing, and I'm sure your audience will not necessarily appreciate hearing the same thing again and again and again. So thankfully, I'm always presenting things in a crazy way, different ways, and so thankfully, I'm not going to bore you to death. It's a repetition of what's his name, Mr. Sami, is it Dr. Sami
Dr. Sami.
Sami, yeah. All right. So anyway, I've titled my own presentation as multidisciplinary career pathways in sustainability. Okay, I don't need to introduce myself because I think that has already been done. So I'll just move ahead and quickly my presentation. To start with, why do I call a multidisciplinary approach to sustainability pathways, career pathways? Well, when you say multidisciplinary, it means you're involved in many disciplines, and in construction, for example, we have a lot of multidisciplinary roles. In banking, there are multidisciplinary roles. In finance, marketing, e-commerce, industry, you don't have just one role. You have many roles coming together to make a product or a service or whatever. So when you have that kind of multidisciplinarity, it helps you to professionals to be able to integrate many things that one person cannot do alone. For example, in sustainability, we have the environmental aspect, social and economic aspects. It's very rare to find somebody who's an expert in three. In fact, if you find someone who says an expert in three, run away. He's probably fooling himself, misleading you, or just exaggerating. You know what I mean? You cannot be a jack of all trade. All right. Well, you could be, but you'll be a master of none. And that's not very helpful. So that's why it's important to think about it that way. And when you think multidisciplinary, it's also helps to foster and improve the way people are making decisions. You're not just seeing it from one aspect of it. An architect will see it in one way, a QS will see it a different way. The client, the government, the end users will see it in a different way, isn't it? So that kind of collaboration is also helpful so that you can think about things together across different sectors, across different scenarios and the rest of it. But it's also about being a T-shaped learner and an effective collaborator. Now, initially, I said you can be a good collaborator if you are multidisciplinary, but are you effective? Because to collaborate, there's collaboration and there's collaboration. A lot of times people are not collaborating when they think they're collaborating. Sometimes people are just coordinating things and they call it collaboration. Sometimes people are just cooperating and they call it collaboration. I'll give you a quick example. First of all, I said you need to be a T-shaped learner, and I will explain T-shaped very soon. Okay, I'll explain what that means. But what does it mean to be an effective collaborator? You see, when I say coordination is forced, like a traffic light. When you get to a traffic light, cross junction, red says stops, green says go. All the cars will stop at red light. At least I like to think in Nigeria, cars will most of the time they'll stop at red light. And when it says green, you go. It's forced. It's not because you choose to go when it's green. No, when the light says green, you have to go. If you don't go, you're actually breaking the law. Just like if you don't stop when it says red, you're breaking the law. So coordination is forced. Just like if you're in construction industry, you have model coordination like clash detection. It's forced. You bring 3-4 models together to see if there are clashes. So coordination is always something that is forced. Think about it, even before we had traffic lights, when we have these yellow fever people that are just waving cars, they are forcing you to move. It's not like you choosing, no, I'm not going to obey him, so coordination is always forced. Cooperation, on the other hand, is okay, mutually beneficial, like in a marriage. I'll marry her, she'll marry me, we'll have kids, I'll go out, I'll hunt, I'll kill an antelope, I'll bring it back, she'll fry it, we'll eat it. You can walk out tomorrow and say, I'm not doing it again. I'm not hunting the antelope anymore. And she can say, I'm tired of this frying and cooking. Cooperation is good, but people can walk away from it. But collaboration is unique in the sense that it's about us, the team. Like in a building project, it's not about you being an architect or engineer or whatever. It's about let's deliver a successful project. Let us make this thing work. Like in a football team, let us win this game. It's not about you being the most expensive player. They're paying you some hundreds of thousands or whatever pounds per week or whatever, and you think you are the striker, you're the most important person. No, Sometimes the defenders and the people are the guys that win the game because they don't concede goals, and stuff like that. And you can't say I'm a striker, I'm not going to tackle, I'm not going to defend, or you cannot say I'm the defender, I'm not going to head the ball into the net because they don't pay me to score goals. No, it's about everybody coming together to say, you know what, it's about us. So that collaboration is very, very important. So you can be a collaborator, but not an effective one. So I hope you understand that. So what do I mean by T-shaped learning? Well, most of us are going to be professionals. I don't know who the exact audience are. I like to think there are some students among you. I like to think maybe there's some practicing professionals among you. But when we say T-shaped learning, basically, it means that you have your own discipline. This is the vertical part of the T. Okay, this is your expertise, what you are specializing in. So you're a quantity surveyor. You know things about cost, estimating, tendering, the commercialization of buildings and all those sort of things, contract administration. You have your specialty. But then you also know enough, this is the top part of the T, of other professions in order for you to be a very effective professional, so that you can communicate with them, you can again collaborate with them. So for example, you go to a site meeting and you are a QS, for example. I don't have anything against QSs. I don't think Doyin will appreciate me not liking QSs. I like them. And I see that my friend Yusuf Mewake is also here as a QS, so I have to be careful. But I'm just saying, imagine you go to a site meeting and then you are discussing a construction project, all right? And maybe it's a large hangar or a warehouse, and the architect wanted a column to look very slim and beautiful. And the civil engineer said, no, I don't, we cannot have this column like this, otherwise it will buckle. And then you start looking at your belt because you hear the word buckle. Either you're an idiot because buckle in construction does not mean the belt. It means the column will collapse. So that's a vocabulary that if you don't have T-shaped learning, you will not know. So a lot of you that are going to school, you took a lot of electives. Some of you didn't know why you took those electives. This is why you are given electives, so you can broaden your knowledge beyond your own domain. It's very important. So if you didn't get this or you didn't take your elective seriously in university, now is the time for you going forward. If you want to be a sustainability professional, so start to think, okay, I'm an economic, I want to go into economic sustainability. What little should I know about social and environmental sustainability, so that at least when I'm collaborating with people or working on a project, we can all come together, because nobody can achieve sustainability alone. You have to meet those three main targets: economic, social, and environmental. Choose one, but then know enough about the others, how they work. Okay, so this is just some background. Right, so let's continue with the main aspect of presentation. The first thing I'll talk about is some concepts of sustainability, some lenses or some applications. Because when we say sustainability, people assume it's just one way of looking at sustainable living or sustainable world. There are many lenses, actually. I've mentioned economic, social, and environmental. This is one lens. Okay, all right, and there are many ways you can apply that. So, for example, we know that what is driving sustainability is that there are a lot of countries and organizations that have made a commitment to reduce their carbon emissions, or they want to be seen to be ethical. So they say, oh, we have zero energy building, or as a country, we are going to reduce our carbon emission by 50% by the year 2055, and so on and so forth. So this is something that is making sustainability in the agenda, requiring a lot of skills and demand for people that have sustainability skills, because companies and organizations and countries cannot be making these claims without hiring sustainability people. I think Dr. Olowo Sile is probably an example of that, because I think his role is something to do with sustainability, and he works for the government, if I'm not mistaken. So if he doesn't have those skills, there's no way he's going to be in demand by the government of, I don't remember which state. So, but there are also climate impacts that are driving the need for people to be resilient and to adapt to changes. I don't know if you are old enough, if you were old enough to see Shagari's regime or Buhari when he was military as president in 1984, you will know that temperatures were not as hot as they are nowadays. You will know. Nobody needs to tell you. You don't have to go to school to know that the world is getting hotter. I can tell you that. All right. So we know that we need to adapt and change and be resilient. Okay. And investors and consumers nowadays are putting a lot of pressure for people to be more sustainable, because people are getting more aware of the environmental changes taking place, or they need to be sustainable. So they're putting pressure on manufacturers to be sustainable, use green products, use green processes, use whatever you need to do. Lagos State, for example, has banned use of plastic bags and plastic containers. They're not the first. In fact, they're late. In the UK, we've been doing that for the past 10 years. Anytime you go to the supermarket and you insist on the plastic bag, you have to pay for it. Otherwise, you bring your own bag. In some places, they don't serve you drinks unless you bring your own cup, because they want things to keep being used. So at this point, I think I should define sustainability in simple terms. What it basically means to be sustainable is to sustain something, so that, for example, when you sustain something, it means it can remain. where it is, or it can be, it can maintain its value or its utility. So, for example, environmental sustainability, we don't want to ruin the climate or the environment so that our children can come and benefit from the same kind of clean earth that we have used. Don't pollute it. We are destroying. When I was passing to was it Kaduna the last time, I saw one rock near Buari where some idiots have gone to through some dynamite and blown that rock away just to get granite, and that you can never bring that rock back. Imagine Zuma Rock or Aso Rock or Olumo Rock being blown away. Just imagine the damage to do to the environment, but also socially to the culture of people of Abeokuta, for example. So to sustain something is to keep it the way it is so that you don't compromise tomorrow. So economically also, for example, if you are poor, why would you want to buy a Ferrari? You cannot maintain the spare parts. You cannot even see the spare parts to buy. Even if you can afford to buy the car to start with, the cost of maintenance is beyond you. That's economic sustainability. And social sustainability has more to do with, is it useful to people? Do people really want this? Is it benefiting them? Don't just build something because it sounds good. Many state governors now, you'll see their trademark for success is, our governor has done a flyover. Many of these states are dead states with some barely 200,000 people in a so-called state capital, and they're doing flyover. That is not socially sustainable because people don't need it. Flyovers are required for a particular traffic reason, congestion reasons, and to make things smooth. But everybody now is just doing flyover because it looks good, And I will make the mistake of thinking infrastructure is development. Infrastructure is in the mind. It's not about flyovers and all those things. Okay. So let me move on. So sustainability basically is linked to your competitiveness, not just in one aspect of finance, but also in terms of how you think about the environment, but also how you respond to what people want. It makes you very competitive. Okay. This is some very basic knowledge that I just thought to pass across. So there are many concepts to sustainability. I've already mentioned the most popular one, which is environmental, economic, and social angle of sustainability. This is just one way of looking at sustainability. In fact, some people have added a fourth angle, but I'm not going to mention that. But it's classically, if you go on Google sustainability, perspectives of sustainability dimensions, you see environmental, economic, and social. We also have circular economy theory, which is an emerging concept that is gradually taking over the traditional sustainability concept. And I will explain what circular economy means very well. And then we also have something called donut economics. Okay, it's also another way of looking at sustainability in a multi-dimensional way. And I'll explain this, for example. So this is the three pillars. This traditional sustainability, you have environmental aspect where you have great initiatives, recycling and reclamation, all those things. You have economic, about resources and finances and all that, and then social aspect, which is about people, compliance, and community and all that kind of thing. So this is just one classical way that we look at sustainability. It's still useful, it's the most simplified, but it has been taken over by this circular economy theory. Circular economy theory, let me explain to you what it means. First of all, historically, up until maybe the 1970s, before the oil crisis, I know many of you are not old enough to, some of you probably don't read your history books or don't Google enough, but in the 1970s, there was the oil crisis that shook the world, okay? And at that time, up to that time, we used to live what we call the linear economy. We extract raw materials, we produce something, we use it, and then we dispose it in a landfill or we throw it away. This was how we used to live. Then from that 1970s, people realized, you know what, this is not going to be helpful. So we started going to the reuse economy, where we again extract raw materials, we produce, we use, and then we recycle it. So when a aluminum window is no longer useful, we take it down and we melt it and turn it into an aluminum spoon or plate or pan or frying pan. That is recycling. But circular economy is much different. It's saying, look, you can take a raw material, produce something, use it, and continue to use that thing in the same way again and again. You minimize the input of raw materials. Keep using things in the circular way. Like when you buy your Tokumbo car, that's circular economy. Because you don't buy your Tokumbo cars from Germany, right? Like a Mercedes-Benz, and then you convert it into a tractor. Or you break it down and melt it and make it into a frying pan or spoon, or turn the tires and glass into something else. No, you keep using the same way. When you buy your second-hand clothes, is that circular economy? So circular economy is by keeping using things the same way as much as possible, so that you retain their utility as long as possible. So it's much more sophisticated way of thinking about sustainability rather than just say let's recycle or let's just look at it this way. Within the circular economy, you still have the social, economic, and environmental aspect as well. Okay. So I just thought to make it clear. So this is the second way of looking at sustainability. The third way, there's something called donut economics. And in simple terms, this is all about you know, like when you say a donut, some of you have been to, you know, you've all eaten donuts, I'm sure. So there's a concept where you have at the center a social foundation, which is about people, what they need in terms of energy, water, housing, gender equality, political atmosphere, peace and justice and all that. It's all about people. That's the social foundation. And then around them, you try to provide a safe space for them to live. And then around that, you have your ecological ceiling where you cannot exceed, like a kind of cap. Make sure you don't harm the environment. Make sure you don't deplete the ozone layer. Make sure you don't pollute the air. Keep biodiversity constant, and fresh water should be conserved, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is another way of looking at it. Okay, all right. So if you're thinking of sustainability, you might need to think about these three angles and see, you know, which one am I going to will work best for me. And you might not be able to make that decision now, but hopefully at the end of this presentation, you might think about it going forward, revisit them, the standard classical environmental, social, and economic sustainability, or you think about circular economy, or you think about donut economics. And if you're the type that reads, then you'll be hearing a lot about this in literature or in presentations and so on and so forth. Okay, so those are just some basics I thought that we should cover this thing. Now, earlier I talked about multidisciplinary aspect of sustainability, and I just want to quickly give you an overview. But I don't know the audience. I mean, I wasn't given enough overview of who and who will be listening. For all I know, maybe the Minister of Abuja is among the audience right now. Maybe Sanwo-Olu is also listening. Maybe even President Bola Tinubu is listening. I don't know. So I have to assume that it's multidisciplinary. And I like to have a multidisciplinary audience, or I like I said, T-shaped. Even if all of you are from the built environment, you need to understand that there is the engineering and construction aspect of sustainability, which has to do with energy modeling and circular design and stuff like that. There is financial aspect. If you want to build a mall and you're a client, you know, and you go and meet an architect engineer to design it, do you have the money for it? Yes, you have the money to design, but you have the money to maintain and operate it. Does it want to bring you return on investment? This is important. And many businesses will also think about making decisions before you want to start going into fertilizer production, or you want to go into food import and export, or oil refinery, or whatever. Dangote will have thought about the financial economics of his refinery before he went into it. Then there's social sciences. People who study social science, they're involved in our community development and our social value. This is where the donut economy is coming into play. So whether you're from social science, you read sociology, you read psychology, and all this G that we have around, you know, there's still a place for you. We need you, because it's all about people at the end of the day. Sustainability, at the end of the day, it's all about people. Yes, we talk about environment and economy, but it's all about people. I'll tell you why. It's about people, because if you remove human beings from this planet, we will not have a sustainability problem. The lions, the tigers, the antelope, the snakes, the fish in the river, the lizards, all of them will live happily ever after. The problem is when you put human beings, the son of Adam, when you put him into the equation, that is when he messes things up, he overuses things, he becomes a consumer, he wastes things, he abuses things. So human beings are the problem. That's why when you talk about sustainability, think about the people aspect of it. It's very important. Work with people who know people, and nobody knows people more than social scientists. Okay. Then you have public sector. Some people work in government, or in government, or with government, whether you are a government employee, civil servant, or your NGO, you partner with government. You need to think about policy aspect, regulation, and planning aspect. And then there's some of you that might come from a technology background or are interested in going to the IT background, in which case we need people who are going to be able to do climate analytics, Internet of Things, and digital twins, and all these other things that can help us make sense and make our world better. Why can we not use technology to improve the decision making? You know, like machine learning and the rest of that. You know, all these things, data analytics and machine learning, they're very important to us. They are going to create some problems like loss of jobs, but they're going to create new opportunities for us as well, because they are very objective. You know, when they analyze things, they don't have bias to a large extent. They are, if you design it properly, they're not biased. They can make decisions based on objectivity. You know, they don't get tired. They don't go on strike. They don't ask for a pay rise. They're not members of ASU. They're not members of a Nigerian Labor Organization. They don't need weekends. They are just there working constantly, collecting data and helping you make decisions. So this is very an interesting and cross-disciplinary way of looking at the need for us to have sustainability in every sector, and why you might come across people from different sectors, and you'll find that you have the same shared values, even though you're looking at things from different perspectives. Okay, so let's quickly go a little bit deeper now. Environmental sustainability, basically, some of the roles are basically we try to reduce the emissions that we are making from buildings or processes, okay, and improve the energy performance of our society, whether it's cars or buildings or whatever. We're also trying to protect the ecosystems and the natural environment, like protect our rivers from being polluted from mining operation, protect our trees from being cut down unnecessarily for firewood and charcoal or whatever, and so on and so forth. So we need to reduce, but I also need to protect. This is very, very important. Okay. And there are energy carbon carriers that require you to be able to, do some, I'm sure you all understand what energy is, but carbon is a little more sophisticated, and I don't have time to go into detail. But there's something called operational carbon, and there's something called embodied carbon. Operational carbon is the carbon that's emitted when you're like running a building. If the energy is from maybe fossil fuel, you're running a generator, that is operational carbon. You're emitting carbon into the atmosphere, or one way or the other, or the fuel you use is from fossil fuel, so that is operational carbon that you're using. Embodied carbon is the carbon that went into making products, like a block of concrete block or a chair. There must have been energy that was used to transport the material, to extract the material, to refine it, to convert it into wood, and shape it and put hammer and nail. I'm not a good carpenter, as you can tell. But generally, the carbon that was locked into a product is called embodied carbon. Okay, so in energy carbon and carbon carriers, you have those who can do energy modeling and simulation. They're not the same. People think modeling and simulation are not the same, but that's a different topic for a different day. There's also building performance evaluation. You want to look at buildings and see how are they performing. Can we evaluate them and see how we can make them better so that they will stop reducing, especially the operational carbon and so on and so forth. Or instead of demolishing them, we can, make them, repurpose them for circularity. Okay. Then there's net zero building design and retrofit, where people are now going towards new buildings. Let's make them net zero so that the net sum of the energy they use and consume is zero. Okay, they may have used a lot of embodied carbon, a little bit of operational carbon in the construction, but during the operation, they use renewable energy to run. So they're kind of balancing out in some way, okay? And there's carbon accounting and life cycle assessment. I don't want to go into details about this, but please take a look at it in your spare time, where you have like carbon credits and life cycle assessment of materials and buildings and the rest of that. Okay, so those are interesting pathways, okay? The careers that have to do with circular economy, you can become a circular strategy development person, okay? Because some people want to do circular economy, but they don't know how to go about it. So we have to develop a strategy for, let's say, if Dangote was to hire you today to work in this refinery or a cement factory, and he says, you know what, I'm worried about all this sustainability. My American investors or friends are always telling me I should be sustainable and ahead of this circular economy. Can you help me develop a strategy? This is strategic thinking. You probably have to have at least a master's level kind of degree to be able to think that way. Not that you cannot do it with the BSc, but you probably need a lot of experience in management to be able to come up with something strategic. Then there's materials recovery and waste valorization, which you can imagine what that does for circularity. We don't want to dispose material. We want to recover them and give them new value, new meaning. Okay. And then there's sustainable product and material design. If you're designing a new product, a building, a chair, a TV, a laptop, can you make it sustainable? And can you make it such a way that it's not something that, if you design a laptop, are you thinking about what will happen in 10 years' time when that laptop processor and maybe RAM and everything is no longer useful, it's probably broken? What is going to happen to that laptop? So you need to think about, just like when car manufacturers now design and manufacture Mercedes-Benz or Peugeot, they think about it going to Africa or Asia after 5-10 years. They know that people are going to use it. So they design for long-term thinking. All right. And then there's building deconstruction and material reuse, so that when we design buildings, for example, we don't have to, when it's old or no longer fit for purpose, we can deconstruct it and reuse the material in some way. Like Lego, we can reassemble the building or reuse the components in different ways rather than just crush the building and throw the materials into waste. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Then there's environmental risk compliance. Environmental risk and compliance, this is about risks that are available around us and how we can comply and manage those risks. You probably have heard about environmental consulting and auditing roles. They exist. I'm sure many of you have heard of environmental impact assessment. That's an area you can go into. A lot of people read urban planning, geography, and stuff like that tend to go into those kind of roles. But anyone who is interested can become an EIA expert if they go acquire the right kind of skills and certification. And there's also the aspect of complying with pollution, quality, pollution and air quality monitoring and water and soil and the rest of that. There are standards that they exist in countries and across the world, ISO standards about how much pollution is allowed, particulate matter by, let's say, exhaust pipes of cars, industrial pollution. So all those things need people who can measure and assess whether someone is complying or not with a rule. And then, of course, there are nature-based careers, nature-based solutions, like ecology and biodiversity planning. This has to do a lot of thinking about how we can make our cities or environment to be ecological and support biodiversity. Every time you dig a ground and build a house, you have, believe it or not, you have deprived some lizards and some snakes and ants of their habitat and some birds. You might not think it's important, but those people have a right to this planet as you because God created all of us. So you need to think about the decision you're making. That's why people use green roofs sometimes. They justify architects. They say we create a green roof because that natural ground that we destroyed, we've taken it up. It's like we've taken it up and put it on top of the roof. That's some philosophical way of thinking about green roofs, which makes a lot of sense so that plants and animals and other things can still use that as a kind of habitat. So you're living in harmony with nature. There's also urban greening and climate adaptation. And in between these, there's something called what do you call it? What's this word again? For when you biomimicry, when we actually look at nature and learn how nature has solved this problem, and then we apply it to the way we design our things and our environment around us. Okay, all right. Then there's also digital and environmental careers. Some of you might want to go into things like GIS, spatial analysis and planning for climate risk adaptation or resilience or predictive modeling. There's remote sensing as well. There's IoT-based environmental sensing, and this could be for anything for temperature, humidity, flooding, and so on and so forth. And there's also digital twin modeling for optimizing our bridges, our roads, our rail tracks, our houses. You can twin almost anything you can think about. In fact, digital twinning didn't start from the built environment. It started from the aerospace industry. So these are for people who are interested in the digital aspect. You can go into the GIS or remote sensing, the IoT or digital twinning, and you can make a career out of yourself. It doesn't matter what your background is. You could have started as a QS where you can acquire a skill in GIS. You could acquire a skill in digital twinning. People think that, oh, I only study estate management. This is all I do. I value buildings and I charge tenants rent. No, you can remodel your career and you can move into something. Everything is learnable if you're willing to learn. You can learn to code. You can learn to do digital twins and IoT-based systems. Don't limit yourself to what you think you got your degree in. In fact, as someone who taught himself how to develop software, I'm a self-taught programmer. I can tell you that some of the best programmers I've seen did not read computer science. In fact, now it is said that if you go to university just to study how to do software, you have wasted 4 years of your life because you can do that within 6 to 8 months if you're serious. Okay? Right. So quickly, 5 tools for environmental sustainability careers. We have Energy Plus. Some of you have heard about it. All right. It's a simulation tool. There's another one called IESVE. It's also for simulation of the built environment, everything from airflow, thermal comfort, daylight, and humidity analysis, net zero, and so on and so forth. CIMA Pro and Open LCAs for life cycle assessment. ArcGIS, I've mentioned that. I'm sure you know what it does for GIS analysis. And then MV and Google Earth Engine. This is about remote sensing and satellite imagery analysis. Okay, so that's it for the environmental aspect of sustainability. Let's quickly move into the social aspect. Remember earlier I talked about social and people. This is core. People tend to underestimate this aspect, but this is really, really essential because with all these environmental and economic things, if it does not serve people, it's useless. You understand what I'm saying? Why do you build a road? For people to pass through with their cars. Why do you build a house? For people to live in. Because without human beings, animals, they live in their habitat. Crocodiles will live in water. Birds will build their nest. Monkeys will live in trees. So everything that we build in the built environment or manufacture things is because of us human beings. So that's why we need to be very careful because we are the ones messing up this whole planet for everybody else. Okay? All right. So social sustainability basically focuses on equity, well-being, safety, and inclusion. Equity is very important because it's not about equality. You cannot make things equal. Like in Nigeria, we have very diverse country, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and people will say, oh, you should treat everyone equally. It's not possible to treat everyone equally. Even as a parent, you cannot treat your children equally because they'll come from different genders, they'll have different ages, different level of maturity, and the rest of it. So what your 18-year-old child wants is different from what your 5-year-old child wants. You understand? So you cannot be buying them the same thing because you want to be equal. You have to give them what they need. So when you think about society as a country, for example, equity is what we need. You know, what the Hausa people will need is different from what Yoruba people will need, different from what Igbo people need, what Tiv people need, Nupe people, Ijaw people. Depends on your population, your geography, your situation. Just get what is due to you. But to say that, for example, national cake, let's divide it, let everybody get 5% is wrong, because you're not all the same population. You don't have the same level of literacy or same level of development. You don't have the same level of education. You don't have same challenges. Some people have desertification. Some people have sea encroachment. Some people have rivers flooding because they live around the Niger and Benue. So it's about equity. It's very, very important. Okay. And well-being, safety, and inclusion is also good, so that everybody feels they are part of the whole story. They don't feel excluded. Not necessarily the way we think about it in Nigeria, where you say, oh, Tinubu is appointing only the Lagos, not even Yorubas, is appointing only Lagosians. That's not the type of thing we're talking about. When we say inclusivity, we're talking about, look, yes, that aspect is important as well, representativeness, but also, how many disabled people do we have in government? How many women do we have in government? And if you don't have women and disabled people in government, imagine that policies, nobody's there to speak for these people, for example. Same thing in a company. How many women do you employ? How many disabled people do you employ? If you don't have that kind of inclusivity, then you are really not thinking social sustainability. So the aim is to strengthen our bond as a community and improve our quality of life, so that we are we have a much more happier and balanced and just society. Okay, justice is very important, and justice is not about giving everybody the same thing. It's about giving everybody what is due to them based on what's available. All right, so let's look at some social impact careers. Like, you can look at measuring outcomes of social programs. Maybe there's some intervention being done by government, like, okay, feed these children in primary school, like I think it started during Buhari's regime, and what is his name? His deputy. They're feeding children so that people can go to school. So how do you know that thing is working? Can you measure the outcome? Because in some cases, it was inspired by the fact that some people don't want to send their children to school because they need their children to go and hawk granite, because that's the only way they can survive. So, okay, if survival is your problem, we will feed your child in school. Okay, don't worry, your child doesn't have to worry about food. And some people are doing it because they don't send their children to school because they're just poor. If the child goes to school from morning till afternoon, what would they eat? So again, you can measure the impact of any intervention. It could be about maybe empowering women. It could be about measuring what do you call it? Maybe decisions that are being made by government in terms of policy. It's about how is the outcome really, really matching the intention. And there's also the community engagement and stakeholder involvement. Are you really involving people? Are you sure you're hearing everybody's voice? When you have all these so-called Senate committees and House of Assembly committees, who are the people that are there that are making their voices heard? You know what I mean? Are you listening to people from different perspectives? You know what I mean? If you take this example of security crisis in Nigeria, you need to hear from everybody. It's not what is happening in security in Southeast is different from the kind of insecurity you have in the Northeast, which is different from what you have in the Northwest. In the Northwest, there's sort of banditry. In the Northeast, it tends to be some fundamentalists, radical Muslim fundamentalists, that are radicals. They're not a true representation of Islam, as far as I'm concerned. And in the middle belt, it may be farmers and herders, clashing because cows are trying to cross the River Niger, and some tea farmers don't want them to eat their granite and their beans and their yam. You can understand that. So when you say security, it's not a single thing. So if you have a House committee hearing on security, are you listening to everybody in terms of what they need for security? In the Southwest, there also people have security issues, the abductions that take place. You know what I mean? Kidnapping and all that. There's nowhere that is Nigeria that does not have security challenges. You understand? So I'm not trying to defend or approve anything one government or one country has said. I'm just saying it's about how you engage with community. That's what makes social impact works. And again, of course, you have to respect human rights and labor compliance, so that when people are working for you, or you're working with people, your rights are not infringed upon, and you don't infringe other people's rights. You have to treat people with respect, whether they're a security man, or they're just a bricklayer on your site, or they're just a cook or a receptionist. You greet them with respect, and this is something you don't see in Nigeria. People treat you based on how you appear, the kind of car you came with, and the kind of mobile phone. How many mobile phones is he holding? Nokia and Samsung and iPhone. Oh, now God, allow him to come inside. What kind of key is he holding? Is it keyless entry? This man must be a big man. The security man deserves respect. In fact, the way you treat people who don't know who you are, who don't know where you're coming from, shows your character. But unfortunately, you find a lot of times in Nigeria, people treat you based on what they perceive you to be. So it goes both ways. The low-income people and the high-income people, we are both guilty of not showing that kind of respect to each other. You understand? We look down on them and they overlook upon us. Okay. So health and well-being is important. There is the well-being standard for healthy and sustainable buildings that can be used by people in social space to measure, whether people are happy with the built environment that they're living in. There's also a way of measuring this environmental and psychology of a building. There is a new branch called neuroarchitecture where we're looking at how the psychology of the human being is responding to the built environment. Okay, because there's something that people are discovering now, that buildings can make you, can change you. And this is why prisons are designed this way. It's the way they're designed. They're designed to keep you in a certain way. You have to think about that. So if a prison can be designed to make you think, or like isolation rooms, to keep you in a certain way. Imagine what a typical face me, I face your house is doing to you as a human being. You don't know this, but it changes the way you relate with people. If you live in a face me, I face you versus you live in a brand new estate in Lekki, your lifestyle, your mindset, it will be different. Because you live in face me, I face you, every day you wake up, neighbors are pounding yam in front of you, somebody's putting a kerosene stove, somebody's in the bathroom, you're fighting, somebody's arguing, somebody slaps somebody. That shapes you. This is very important. So neuroarchitecture is an emerging area that I think people should pay attention to. Like one of the prime ministers of the UK said a long time ago, he said, we shape our buildings, which means we design our buildings. But afterwards, these buildings shape our lives. And it is true. We are the ones who design buildings, we want them. But based on how we design those buildings, that is how our lifestyle and our standards will emerge eventually. If an architect, wherever you are right now, if an architect did not put a bathroom or a toilet, when you want to urinate, you have to go outside to the bush. Now, what's the difference between you and a monkey? Can you see that? So an architect is a very powerful person. If he doesn't design a house to have a toilet, you have a problem. I'm sure you've all seen terrible designs where you open the door and then you're just next to a staircase, you almost fall down or something like that, So this is very important to think about. Okay. And then there's workplace ergonomics and safety design so that you are not compromising your long-term health with poorly designed tables and chairs that are not at the same height as they should be for your level of physical biology. You know what I mean? And you have things like musculoskeletal disorder because your laptop or your table is too low or is too high or your chair is not ergonomic. And all these things are very, very important. It's about people's well-being eventually. So there's something called the well-being standard, which you can take a look at if you're interested in this area. It covers many aspects of nourishment, fitness, comfort, mind, light, water, and air. Okay. There's also the International Well-being Institute. You can take a look at them if you're interested. Okay. Then I talked earlier about inclusivity, but there's something called diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Or in the UK, we could say equity, diversity, and inclusion, EDI. It all depends. They all mean the same thing. It's about, can you develop DI policy and strategy development to ensure that there's diversity, there's inclusivity or equity and inclusion in your workspace? Is your design inclusive and accessible? How many buildings can you go to Nigeria and you can say a person with a wheelchair can comfortably go in? How many restaurants have you been that have ramps? How many offices have you seen that have ramps for disabled people or that are friendly to blind people? How many places have you gone to where you see where they say, okay, that we have an ear loop system for people who don't have hearing problems, they have an ear device, they can turn it so that they can hear sound that's, we don't do that a lot, and we need to. That's what we mean by being inclusive. Think about everybody. It might not matter to you now until the day you get an accident, you're paralyzed, then you realize the importance of having access to wheelchair. You say, oh, I didn't know this. I was a director in this building for many years. Now I can't even climb the staircase. Somebody has to lift me up like a baby. You see? All right. So, and there's also discrimination and compliance and reporting. We don't want discrimination to take place, obviously. So, with the social angle, how do you tackle discrimination, whether it's by ethnic or tribal or nepotism, and make sure that you are able to report and like what we call whistleblowing. When things are going wrong, somebody needs to be able to report that so that action can take place and stop that sort of unhealthy practice from continuing. And then some of you might be in public service or in governance roles, for example. So whether you're a civil servant, you still have to think about sustainability and climate policy in terms of what you do every day. You could be working for Ministry of Education. You could be looking at, okay, we're procuring these books, these textbooks. But where were these books made from? Oh, they're not made from, they're made from recycled carbon. Oh, sorry, what do you call it? What do you make paper from? Pulp. Yeah, they're made from recycled pulp. Oh, that's nice. I like, let's procure this book because that is more environmentally friendly. You see, as somebody, a director, Minister of Education in the state, you made a responsible decision. Whereas if the book was made from virgin trees, That may mean that some trees have been knocked down in one part of Edo State or Brazil, and that's it. And that tree took 200 years to grow, and you can never bring that tree back. Okay. And there's also the urban social planning and community development angle to it, where we think about how we plan our community, how we like I said, we shape our society, so that we are living in harmony. We don't segregate. This is GRA, rich people. This is for poor people. This is ghetto. We need to find a way to mix things up without necessarily compromising our safety and security. And that's why we have what we call mixed use residential development. Like in the UK, for example, if you're developing an estate, I think you have to give at least 10 to 15% to low income earners. So you cannot develop an estate that's only for high income people. You have to allocate a certain percentage to low income people, just to make sure that it's not only rich people that live here. Because if you don't have access to poor people, how will you understand and empathize with them and have a broad mind? Because we're living in a bubble. Okay. And of course, a lot of people will go and work with non-governmental organizations. They are called non-governmental, but a lot of times they have to work with government, and they do humanitarian work in terms of development of society and communities and so on and so forth. So there are many positions there that require people that have understanding of policy and governance in terms of sustainability, and you can work with them to foster your career regardless of your background. There's social data and impact measurement. There's something called social return on investment, just like economic return on investment. Some things cannot be measured economically, but they can measure them in social return. If you take out some policy and you invest some money and you get profit, you can call that return on investment, economic return on investment. But if you do some things and people are happier and they are more inclusive and more tolerant, that is a social return. You cannot measure that in monetary terms. Okay. But then there's also monitoring and evaluation rules. People who specialize in just looking at things socially, monitoring things, evaluating them, and giving feedback. So there's a cycle of continuity and continuous development. This is very, very critical. Okay, so quickly, 5 tools for economic sustainability and ESG careers. We have the Bloomberg terminal. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but please take a look at it if you're interested in that aspect. Basically, investors use it to assess how ESG performance is being done by organization. You have the SCI ESG Manager. Again, it's related to the ESG rating. You have the SAB Standard and Workiva for corporate sustainability. You have S&P Global ESG Scores and True Cost, also for climate exposure, carbon intensity measurement, and circularity tools and the circularity indicators. Circulytics, something a tool called Circulytics, is to measure a company's progress towards becoming circular, regardless of whether you're producing pure water or you're producing Five Alive or you're producing some motor vehicles. You can always introduce circularity into your business. Okay. Finally, let's talk about economic sustainability. Well, basically, economic sustainability is to make sure that you have long-term economic resilience and value creation. You don't take decisions that may sound okay now, but maybe in future you are saddling people with a lot of debt or something they cannot manage. Imagine if your father puts you in a school that is expensive and then he passes away, or his salary cannot even afford to pay school fees. He's just a civil servant, but he put you in the most expensive school. That is not economically sustainable for him to do. Okay? But it's also about balancing innovation and efficiency and sustainability. You need to be more innovative in the way we do things in this world, but we need to balance that with efficiency. Is it going to give us what we need? Is it sustainable? Don't just adopt something because it looks cool. New innovation, let's buy it. Many such technological solutions today, they are solutions looking for problems. They just exist. They're solutions, but they are looking for problems. They don't really have any true value. We have not realized their true value yet. This happened with VR in the 1990s. People knew, okay, it looks interesting, but didn't know how to use it. And it was terribly expensive in the 1990s until mid-2000s became very cheap, and people are now using VR like pure water. Okay? All right. So you need to think about that. Blockchain is another example. Everybody think, oh, blockchain. Apart from cryptocurrency, and maybe a few people who do real estate management with a blockchain, I don't see many examples of successful use of blockchain. People just think, oh, we can use blockchain, but is it going to help you become more profitable or reduce your expenses or improve health and safety or manage your risk? If not, why are you using it? So sometimes people just use things, buy things without realizing that this thing is not really going to help their bottom line or help them improve their businesses. So that's very important. So there's some careers that you can think about in general, like ESG data analysis and benchmarking, sustainability, climate reporting, independent ESG and sustainability auditing, and corporate governance roles. Okay, those are very broad categories. I'll go into some specifics later on. Okay, from the finance side, if you're working in the financial sector, it could be banking, insurance, and the rest of that credit risk analysis. There's something called green financing. There's impact investment and blended financing. There's ESG portfolio management, and there's climate risk modeling and disclosure modeling as well that you can do in terms of financial decisions. These are all like some branches. If you're for the financial sector, you're interested in cost aspect of things. If you're in the built environment, the QS can easily find himself playing this role in future. It doesn't have to be in the built environment, but you can take your understanding of costing and apply that if you find a job role somewhere. You cannot say, oh, I didn't read banking and finance. How many bankers, people that work in banks, any bank, GT Bank, do you think they all have degrees in banking? No. How many of them even have degrees in economics? Very few. They come from different backgrounds and they still have the ability to work in banks. All you need to do is bring the right aptitude and they will train you for the skills that you need. That's what banks do. That's why they do aptitude tests for banks, by the way. Most banks do aptitude tests because it's not about your degree. Do you have the aptitude to work in a bank? If you do, we'll take you to our first bank training school, train you to be a banker and give you a job. So what you can do now is don't wait for them. You can train yourself, get those skills so that you can apply for those jobs and show that, yes, I have this ability, I've got this certification, I can do this, I can do that, even though my background is this and that. And they'll be impressed. Okay. So there's also the supply chain side of things because we tend to bring in when we as human beings, when we build a house, a road, a factory, whatever it is that we do, there's always some sort of supply chain involved. Whether you're selling pure water, there's a supply chain involved. Somebody has to bring you the sachet, somebody has to bring you the equipment, electricity has to be supplied by someone, you have to have a truck that will supply the pure water to different corner shops and all those sort of things. So there's always a supply chain involved in almost everything that we do. But is it ethically sourced in terms of your materials and labor and everything? And how do you engage your suppliers? Are you being honest and ethical with them, or are you shortchanging and cheating them? Because that's very important. All right. And there's also supply chain emissions reduction. You need to reduce the emissions of your supply chain as much as possible. Use local stuff. Don't bring things from far away. You don't have to import something from China. Don't do it. Right? If you can get a local solution, it's better for the environment, it's better for economic sustainability, it's better for social sustainability because you're creating jobs, boosting the local economy, and you are not bringing in products that are emitting carbon through shipping and all those sort of things. There's also the modern slavery aspect of it, where or you can even include child labor in this conversation as well, where you have to make sure that people are not being abused. They're not being hired to come and just serve somebody like a slave. A lot of times, a lot of our people will go to the village and go and bring one house girl, a kaite or something like that. Sorry if you're a Calabar. I'm not project. I'm not. Yes.
Okay, sorry for cutting you. We have just 5 minutes, so we can take questions. We have 5 minutes left on your time, sir.
Okay, I'm almost done. So with modern slavery, people bring in house helps and all that, and they think they're there to help you take care of your children. But are you really thinking about that person's future? And sometimes you find them putting sniper inside your food because they're angry and all that kind of stuff. So things are happening that people are not thinking about. Okay. So, and there's so many business strategies you can apply in terms of this angle, like sustainability management, leadership, corporate social responsibility, B Corp certification guidance, and resource efficient operational strategies. These are like roles and pathways that you can also look into. Economic policy analysis is also important. Some of you are into policy making. It could be climate policy, carbon tax analysis, infrastructure investment valuation, and the rest of that, and so on and so forth. So quickly, 5 tools for social sustainability careers. There are social value calculators that are available out there. If you're interested, they can help you measure and calculate social value. We have In Vivo and Atlantis for those of you who work with NGOs and you're collecting interview and qualitative data. You want to be able to measure impact and all those things. Same thing goes with SROI, social return on investment tools, by assigning monetary value to economic things. We have questionnaire tools like SurveyMonkey. If you want to do questionnaires and collect data and understand what is going on, you make data-driven decisions. And finally, the well-building standard tool I mentioned earlier, which you can take a look at for buildings. So in summary, the career pathways I've talked about, you could say we have things like solar engineering and deployment. This is for renewable energy people, if you're interested in that. There's wind project design and management. There's energy storage and battery systems. There's smart grid analysis and optimization. All these are things, if you're already an engineer or into electricity or electrical side of things, or you just want to go into it, think about all these ones. Battery, smart grid, wind project, solar, they're very important and ever growing, because the world is going towards renewable energy. All right. If you're interested in climate technology and innovation, you can go into AI for sustainability, property technology and construction technology, digital transformation. There's smart manufacturing and low waste apps that you can develop, and there's also sustainability innovation startups that you can start on your own. Okay. And my colleague earlier talked about some of those things. And data and AI for sustainability, there's big data analysis for carbon and climate, predictive modeling and energy risk, IoT, sustainability engineering, and dashboard analytics development. These are for people who are really into tech and big data analytics. You can train yourself for these. There are certifications you can get. There are tools you can learn within a matter of months, and you are in business. Resilience and disaster management and reduction. Climate resilience, adaptation, and planning is something you can go into. There are tools for this. Infrastructure and community risk assessment. How risk averse or how risk sustain. How risky is it for for a community to live near this bank of a river, or in terms of security, or in terms of desert encroachment, or rising sea levels. And also disaster response and preparedness planning is also another important aspect. Like we have, is it NEMA? We call it Nigerian Emergency Response. Is it NEMA? I can't remember that acronym. Something to do with emergency response. And education and training. If you're the type that is into education, training, advocacy, or upskilling, then you can think about sustainability education and curriculum design. You can think about communicating climate issues and public outreach through a channel, a podcast, or whatever. And you can look at behavior change and not strategies to make people change their behavior without them realizing that you are actually doing it. There's something called knot theory. There's no time for me to go into that, but maybe in the question and answer, I can elaborate more on knot theory. So finally, and just to summarize, prerequisites and skills and pathways, you need technical skills. Obviously, I mentioned them: data skills, modeling, simulation, low carbon skills. You need key certifications. You can't just say I'm into energy modeling, but you don't have certification for it. And then you also need soft skills like leadership, communication, stakeholder engagement, and people skills. These are very, very important skills that you need for sustainability careers. You cannot just have one. All right. So you need to have a combination of all. All right. So if I'm summarize, I would say the way you will go about it is you can start by internship and early career routes. And my colleague earlier mentioned that you don't have to wait till you graduate. You are having this holiday, summer holiday. You can go and become an intern in a company that needs somebody to play a role. Or you can say, look, I'm interested in this aspect of sustainability. Can I help you people develop this strategy or do this? And then, yeah, okay, why not? What have you got to lose? You're just an intern, or you're going for IT or sideways or whatever it is they call it. There's career transition opportunities. You train as a QS, but interested in financial sustainability and work for a bank, you can make that transition easily. Freelancing and consulting pathways. You can start your own startup company. You can be a freelancer. You can be self-employed. You can start your own social media platform and so on and so forth, podcast and so on and so forth. Continuous learning. You have to keep learning, especially if you belong to a certification body or professional body. They always want you to keep learning and growing your network. And because what is happening today is not what's going to happen in the next 10 years. All right. In conclusion, sustainability careers are expanding across every industry, which is why I try to make it multidisciplinary, and opportunities are driven by climate policy and innovation. All right. And I'd like to thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions or you'd like us to discuss anything, I'm more than available to listen to you. Thank you so much. I think I've just barely made it on time, although I think I didn't start on time. You didn't give me enough time. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you
questions?
so much, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, from Dr. Z, we have been able to identify different career pathways, from the social career pathways to economic and to environmental. Okay, so to avoid wasting our time, we are going to be taking the question and answers now. We have just 20 minutes for it. So after this event, if you're not able to answer your question, so you can connect with our speakers on LinkedIn. Just check for their names on LinkedIn. All right, thank you very much. Please put your questions in the chat box or identify by raising your hand. Yeah. Hello, everyone. So if you have questions, identify by your hand raise or put your questions in the chat box.
Questions? Okay, let's go home. Okay. I'm surprised there are no questions. Let's check the chat box. Maybe some people have asked some questions there.
Okay. Please, if you have any question, please ask the question now. Ask the questions now.
Mohammed Murtala said he has a question. Mohammed Murtala.
Okay.
Said earlier on the chat.
If you are asking a question, I think you can direct it to any either Dr. Samia or myself, or you could just say anyone can answer it. But it's better you specify who the question is addressed to.
Okay, we have a question for Mohammed. I think this is to Dr. Somi. He said he would like to ask questions. Okay, ask questions after presentation. Sorry. Mohammed, please, can you unmute yourself? Hello, Mohammed. Are you still with us? Please, can you unmute yourself?
Okay. I've seen a message. Someone said they've dropped a correction request on LinkedIn, but he's still waiting for acceptance. All right. Innocent, I will take a look at that and get back to you. I've been off social media for quite a while, so that probably explains it. Innocent Monday. Okay. See.
Okay, so we have a question from Arafat.
Yes.
Abdulaziz. Well done, Prof, and thank you, sir. As a QS that is passionate about sustainability, particularly circular economy, and what areas can be specialized on in the career paths?
Okay, yes, I can see. As a QS passionate about sustainability, particularly circular economy, because what area can he specialize in career pathway? Well, I think one of the challenges for the circular economy now is people don't see value for money in it. They just see it as just something like a tick box exercise. I mean, they understand the concept, just like in the early days, people didn't understand the value of BIM. They felt, well, it's just something you need to do with 3D modeling. But now they see IoT, digital twins, and the rest of that. So there's this opportunity to be able to show people that, look, when you go circular, you are actually going to increase the value of something across its life cycle. You don't have to worry about that thing ever becoming useless, if you think about it that way. If Mercedes know that they make a car and after 5 or 10 years, a German will sell it to somebody in Nigeria who will buy it in Lagos, use it for 2-3 years, sell it to somebody in Kano who will use it for another 5 years, sell it to somebody in Maiduguri, they'll be happy because it shows that their car is, continuously being used. They don't have to worry about it being broken apart and wasted into a waste field or whatever. And the spare parts will also be a market because they'll keep selling spare parts for that same Mercedes-Benz over its lifespan. So that is how you can think about it as a QS. Say, okay, you know what? If you look at a building, most people think about the capital cost. Okay, they don't think about the operational cost. You can think about how you can help them think about how to keep this building profitable. Because even if it's not a profit-making building like a school, public school is not making profit, but at least in the next 10, 15 years, what is this school going to look like? Is it fit for purpose when we are now moving into a world of renewable energy? What kind of strategy can we do to ensure that we can maybe take the school off grid? How much are we going to save from paying NEPA bills? You know what I mean? Because many universities, for example, are struggling to pay electricity bills because all of a sudden the subsidy on electricity was removed and all that. So from a QS perspective, you can look at it from the design side, from the operational side, and maybe life cycle aspect of it, life cycle costing, and this can be an area you can go into. Okay. I hope that kind of answers that question because there's so many pathways. I cannot tell you to go into a particular. If you said you were interested in a particular thing, I'll be more than happy to have other conversations with you to give you some guidance or inspiration. Okay. Okay.
Okay, someone is saying thank you so much, Dr. Z. Adamu. Very, very interesting and impactful. Well done, sir. All right, thank you so much. Please, do we have any more questions from our audience?
Most of you who have said they've dropped me a connection on LinkedIn, I'm trying as much as possible to accept them.
Okay, in the absence of no questions, Architect Emmanuel would like to tell us something. Would like to pass an information to us.
Hey, can you hear me?
You facilitators
Yes,
yourself will have some questions ready. You asked us to prepare a presentation, and you yourself, you don't have questions.
Yes. So I have some questions that I want to ask.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I know that some of these things have been spoken about during the course of the presentation.
I can barely hear you. If you don't mind, there's something wrong with your audio.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, just that it's not very clear. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Carry on.
Okay. Can you all hear me better now?
Yes, much better.
Okay, sorry. I think maybe it's my headset. So I was saying that first I would like to thank Dr. Zed and Dr. Somi for your time. We appreciate you so much. We do not take it for granted. We are very grateful that you've obliged us to be a part of this webinar, even within the short notice that we gave to you. We are very grateful and thank you so much. So some of the questions that have been discussed during the course of my interaction with some of the persons in the Green Horizon Network is, for some persons, I know we've touched light some of these issues, but for some persons, they are like you said, there are some things that are being done right now in Lagos, in some part of Nigeria, that has been done over 10 years in the UK and other parts of the world. And even when you want to interface with some persons around here about this sustainability thing, the whole life cycle assessment, green building, and all of that, people look at you as you're saying something that is alien to what they are used to every day. How best can you advise or guide some of us to engage with these persons in as much as we are coming up as emerging professionals in this field? How best do we engage or try to communicate some of these ideas with the people around us that they understand it better?
Is that for me?
Yes, sir, you can go ahead. I think I
Okay.
take Somi can add up to it.
Okay. So what I would like to say first of all is many of these things that are emerging, like sustainability, artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, and all that kind of stuff. Many of these things are beyond the scope of the average person. This is just the truth. Even the educated average person out there, someone can be graduated with an engineering degree this year and he barely knows anything about sustainability. Even AI, if you ask him, he will say ChatGPT, which is very, 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 very narrow branch of natural language processing, which is a branch of AI. You understand what I'm saying? So there's quite a lot of sophisticated stuff that's coming out. Think about digital twins and all those sort of things. We talk about ESG. The problem is we need to be able to demystify them, bring them down to the level of common man. They say you don't know anything unless you can explain it to a 6-year-old. If somebody was to leave this presentation now, he goes home. I'm sure most of you will probably have kids. Emmanuel, I don't know whether you're old enough to have a wife or kid yet, but let's assume your child asks you, Daddy, what did you do today? You say, yeah, I listened to two people talk about sustainability, and one of them mentioned ESG, and he mentioned circular economy. Say, Daddy, circular economy. You mean our economy is in cycle? What is a circular economy? Trust me, Emmanuel, if you cannot explain circular economy to a 6-year-old, then you don't really know it. That's the measure of whether you know something. It's very easy to be complex. Let me tell you something. As someone who has spent 25 years in academia and industry, it's very easy to be complicated and sophisticated when you talk. The hardest thing to do is to be simple. That is what is actually hard, to break something that is complex down into a language that people can understand. So some people think they can just throw fancy words around and complex word and they'll sound intelligent. You're going to drive people away. So like I said, you have to demystify some of these things by simplifying them. And I think with sort of things you're doing, like this program, is one way of doing it. But I think you need to try to reach a wider audience. What I mean by wider audience is that how many people have signed up for this event? Let me take a look. I think I saw 30 something people initially. Now it has dropped to 26. I mean, that's really a small amount. It's a decent amount if they're all interested in this. But imagine in a country of 200 million people, what's the best way to reach people to get them to understand what is sustainability and how it impacts them? A Gwari woman who is just harvesting firewood from the forest, what does she know about climate change and deforestation? So you need channels that can demystify things. And most likely nowadays, the easiest will be multimedia channels, some kind of podcast. It doesn't have to be video podcast. When we say podcast, people think you have to have a YouTube channel. No, it could be an audio podcast. You do an audio podcast where you're sending messages through WhatsApp that people can listen to and pass it around to each other, understand certain concepts, or it could be video podcast, obviously. This would be very helpful because many people have smartphones, but that way you can reach hundreds of thousands and millions of people. And gradually you now start to see that people understand these things and it's no longer strange to them, like you say. They don't think you're just talking foreign language, something. This one is theory, this one is for Igbo people. You understand? So this is my own approach to it, that many times things fail in our own part of the world because we refuse to localize and contextualize and simplify them. We think we can just take a concept that we heard or we found that is working in America or US or UK, we can just bring it down to Nigeria and still use the same language. No, we're dealing with people. How many percentage of us are literate in Nigeria? Even those that are literate, how many of us are exposed to current state of affairs? So we need to be able to break things down. If necessarily we can break things into vernacular language, why can we not have people explain sustainability in Igbo, in Yoruba, Hausa, Ijaw, Nupe? Why not? You understand what I'm saying? Or in Pidgin, why not? It's a language. We use it all the time. There's nothing wrong with it. Jamaicans use patois and they're proud of it. Why can't we not explain sustainability in Pidgin? So maybe my challenge to you people next time is do something on sustainability in Pidgin so that market women can understand what you're talking about. You understand? So that when you talk about supply chain, you say, it's true. It's not me buying my tomato from Auchi. I think I'd rather be buying it from Sapele because it's closer to Lagos, because I'm also going to support people. They can understand the implication of what they're doing. You understand? I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, sir. I think it does. Before I ask the next question, I think we have one more question in the chat.
Yes, from a listener.
Okay, so these are my personal questions as a graduate architect interested in sustainability. For Dr. Z, what do you think are the most important sustainability challenges for young professionals to understand today?
Okay, so let me get the context. My questions are, as a graduate architect interested in sustainability, what do you think are the most important sustainability challenges? Okay, so challenges for young professionals to understand today. I think the most important challenges, first of all, starts from your curriculum. Your curriculum is not designed to help you understand sustainability. The nearest you come to sustainability is maybe you do a bit of site analysis and building climatology, which is very, very elementary and primitive in today's world. Those things are important, but I'm saying when you want to be sustainable, you need to go beyond that. You're not taught about social sustainability, about the buildings you design. You're not taught about economic sustainability and the environmental aspect of it. How many architects can graduate today and say they know how to use Energy Plus, for example, to do some basic simulation? They don't. They barely do. Most of them will learn it after they graduated and they want to get some lead certification or something, or they're just interested. So I think the most important challenge for young professionals to understand is that your curriculum is seriously what's the word for it? It's flawed, with all due respect. And I'm academic, so I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way. Even in the UK, we have challenges of skilling our curriculum and upgrading our curriculum. So because of your curriculum is flawed, this limits your exposure. So you now have to depend on getting third-party upskilling, CPD, continuing professional development knowledge, from whatever providers you can find around you, depending on your interest. Because you're an architect, you didn't tell me whether you are interested in high-rise buildings. Are you a residential architect? Are you a corporate buildings, institutional design, or you're just an architect that does everything? I don't know. You may have your interest, because your interest determines what area of sustainability you might want to start with and focus, because it's just so broad. You understand? So that's my own simple answer to it. Maybe if it's not satisfactory, we can discuss this later on. But I will not go around and tell you that as an architect, your challenge is this or that. I think your main problem is you are not prepared. And I can say that for many other professions, they're not prepared. Your curriculum has not prepared you to think about sustainability. If I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I do not think your curriculum has entrenched enough sustainability content in it to be able to make you think and design in environmental consciousness, social consciousness, and economic consciousness. Not to mention even things like circularity or donut economics. You can imagine how that has disadvantaged you in many ways. So it's up to you now to recognize, okay, I have this shortcoming. Because when you recognize you have a problem, you've solved this 50%. Then what do I need to do about it? This is where some of those tools I've mentioned, career pathways, you can choose the one that works. Of course, it's also constrained by your cost, how much you can pay for upgrading, upskilling yourself, your location. Are you in Lagos or are you in Birnin Kebbi? These are two different things. Access to certain things will be limited by geography. And of course, your own ability as a human being. You have your intellectual and knowledge ability, and also your interests, your passion. What are you passionate about? But I will avoid using the word passion, because I think if you want to be a successful businessman, think about the market. What does the industry need? Not what I'm passionate about. You might be passionate about environmental sustainability, but if the roles you're seeing are about economic sustainability, then that's where the market is. Chase the money. Don't say, oh, I'm always interested in environmental sustainability, even though there's no opportunity there for me. Don't let your passion mislead you to go into something. You're right. You can have a passion for something, but if it's not marketable, like you have a passion for selling pepper, it doesn't mean you're going to be a successful pepper farmer or seller. No, maybe the market is for granite. You see my point? So don't let your passion, it's good to have passion, but don't let your passion be the one that is driving you all the time. I will stop there, and maybe because I think there's a question for Dr. Sami.
Okay, yes, so Dr. Sami, she said, what mistakes do you think young designers often make when approaching sustainability, and how can she avoid them?
Let me first acknowledge Prof. and the amount of knowledge that I have gained in his presentation today. I mean, it was a power-packed presentation. Thank you, Prof, for that amazing presentation. I was just behind my camera, smiling sheepishly when you were dishing out the majority of this incredible knowledge. And sincerely, I expected quite a bit of questions, especially for Prof, with the amount of knowledge that was shared. I mean, he shared quite a lot of them. I want to appreciate you once again, Prof. Thank you. So going straight to what the question of the young architect is, let me get his name from the Ifeduku, right? I think I can pronounce that better than the first one, so I don't murder your name. The question is, what mistake do young designer often make approaching sustainability? And that's a very beautiful question. I will start from saying that the first issue about designing and talking about designing or maybe sustainable design is having a mindset shift from making a green thing. There is the mindset that everybody has when you are talking sustainability. Everybody believes sustainability is going green and everything is green. When you design and you paint the house green and you put greenery, and that's the mentality of a lot of individuals. So I would want to say that the first mistake is not being specific on saying that we want to make a green thing, right? So it's more of designing for a better efficiency and designing a better system. So if you want to design, you're looking at designing a better system. So this is the way it has been. How much more better can it be? And in terms of sustainability, you're looking at, I think Prof also mentioned that, you are looking at how to consistently keep this thing the way it is, right? If you look at if you look at Nigeria as a country, I believe majority that are in the call are Nigerians. If you look at Nigeria as a country, back in the days before our independence, there were a couple of infrastructural projects that were handed over to us. as a country, several railway roads, some signature of maybe ancient bridges and all of that, some ancient infrastructural projects as well. Some of these infrastructural projects, almost at the same time, you would see some of them in the West. And as of today, they are still functioning efficiently and effectively. And it's so simple. But if you go to Nigeria, if you go to those major sites where some of these projects were executed, you will discover that some of them are already dilapidated, or some of them have already even gone into extinction. They don't even exist anymore. And it's so simple. It's talking about how to probably sustain whatever it is we have. And that's talking about even our maintenance culture. I was listening to somebody very recently, and the person was talking about the aspect of maintenance and relating it to the African context, and trying to bridge the gap between what we have as a belief as an African sect. If you check majority of our languages, Prof was talking about interpreting this thing to Pidgin, interpreting into our local language. If you look at majority of our languages, yes, you might have different language for several English words. But when it comes to the aspect of maintenance, do we actually have a local dialect that speaks to that? And that in itself is already speaking to our mindset, because it does not exist. So if you kind of try to look for it, we don't even have it. And that means that in one way or another, maintenance culture is not a thing that we want to say we don't have maintenance culture. The first thing is, do we even have it ingrained in us as a system? Do we have it localized in us? I mean, that's just one way to think about it. So now that comes, or that speaks now to the level of now talking about sustainability and now taking it a step further to say that, yes, maintenance culture is important, but beyond maintenance culture, we now want to look at the impact of all of whatever design that you want to put into place. You want to look at the impact on the environment, on the people, and of course, in terms of the technicalities that surrounds whatever it is that we want to do. So now that's the idea. So rather than just looking at making a green thing, you want to be looking in the direction of designing a better system. And to put it into context, I'll probably just mention some few better questions that probably as a young architect or as a young designer, you might want to ask yourself first when you want to start your project. And you want to have the mind of, at least I want to go the path of sustainable design for this particular project. I think one of the first questions will be that, what is the primary user need of this project or of this particular building? And is this like the most efficient way to meet it? So if you are trying to put up the design, are there better, efficient ways to actually address the primary user's need? So now that becomes your number one standard design question. You might have it as a checklist. Then you want to talk about what happens to this product at the end of its life. That's when Prof was talking about the circularity, and he was talking about the entire embodied energy and the embodied carbon. So you're looking at the entire process or the entire life cycle of a particular project, right? So you want to look at both you want to put it up, construction phase, even at the inception, up until construction phase, up until the operational level, and when you get to the end of use, you have to demolish it. So what happens to this particular project at the end of its life? So you want to look at all of these processes. Then you want to now talk about, can it be repaired? Can it be upgraded? Can it be disassembled easily? You know, these are questions that probably might also now come to mind. That's talking about designing for a better system and designing for a greater efficiency. Then you're looking at who is involved in making this, and are their rights being respected? So now that speaks to the social aspect of the project that you want to put in place. Then you're looking at what are the three biggest environmental impact of this design. So you are probably just broadening your understanding as to, how do I now make sure that I align with answering all of these questions, and my design particularly address them efficiently? So when you're talking about mistakes, you'll be looking at treating sustainability as an add-on. That's also a particular or a type of mistakes that is more like a young architect can as well make. Like, should we just sprinkle sustainability on top of our design as finished, or do we want to ingrain sustainability right from the onset by answering some of the critical questions I've talked about in the conceptualization phase of the project, right? And you also want to avoid focusing on eco-label materials. So eco-label is good. When you're looking at eco-label, oh, this has been labeled a green material. It is good, but beyond that, you want to equate sustainable design with the material selection, not particularly about the eco-label. A typical example would be using bamboo or recycled plastic. It might not really matter whether you use bamboo at the time, because whatever it is you want to achieve might be eventually, bamboo might not meet the requirement of what you want to achieve. So by saying that, oh, because bamboo is eco-labeled, so I want to use bamboo, might not eventually be the most sustainable approach to handling that particular design. So that's just looking at it. So looking at it from both the sustainable material point of view and looking at the efficiency, the durability, and several other things that the material in itself also hold. So rather than just using greenwashing terms for the marketing terminologies, oh, this is eco-labeled, is labeled this and all of that, and you want to just incorporate some of those into your design, it goes beyond that. So you want to probably just go into the system thinking and understand the reason why you are even using the materials in the first place. Then there are some level of mistakes that comes from over-designing and creating green junk. Yeah, green junk is like designing a new sustainable product that the world doesn't need. So you're trying to design something. At the end of the day, you're not solving any problem. Rather than solving problem, you are creating more problem, right? Or maybe you're creating a fragile, short-lived object from biodegradable material. Even though you're actually creating something from biodegradable material, those things are fragile, they are short-lived, they do not even serve the purpose in the first place. I mean, does that even make sense? So that's also something to really think about. So now looking at all of this now gives you an understanding as to how to embrace dematerialization before designing a new product in the first place, right? That's talking about, can this existing product, can it be modified? Can it be repaired? Can I continue to use it for as long as I want to have this project onboarded? Or is it one of the best material that fits into this type of situation at this time, right? Then also, one other mistake, I think I've talked about that, is ignoring social pillar. Who are the projects intended to service? The people. I think Prof mentioned that very clearly, right? Whatever it is we're putting together, it's for the people. So now, ignoring social pillar is very critical. It's a very notable mistake that any designer can make, right? Majority of design is focusing on the environmental impact, but while you're focusing on that, you are ignoring the social and economic aspects, maybe the people and the profit of the project. That probably also is a mistake, and that's where sustainability comes to play. It says if 3 or 4-legged stool, you want to balance all the legs. It's not like you're holding one leg and the remaining 2 are cut. At the end of the day, the stool that's supposed to have 3 legs, if you have just 1 leg, it's going to fall. It's not going to stand. So you need those entire pillar to be able to stand your stool, and for the stool to be usable in the first place. So now that's also one. Then maybe getting paralyzed by perfection could be something else. Maybe talking about believing that if your design is not 100% circular, then it's not worth pursuing. That could also be a misconception. Yes, it's good that you have a circular project. It's good that your project try as much as possible to pursue zero waste, right, and zero carbon. But it's not compulsory that it has to be 100% circular. It's not compulsory that it has to be completely zero. So now that also could be a mistake, because at the end of the day, it could paralyze creativity. It could paralyze innovation. So there are some certain things that could also be paralyzed if you are just being very rigid in this space. Then it's also very important, because as a designer, you are communicating through your mind, you are communicating a design to the world. So it's important for you to be able to communicate the value of the project effectively through your design. So designing a brilliant, sustainable solution, but if it's failing to acknowledge or explain the value to the users, and the users could not easily see the value of that brilliant design that you have, then it becomes a problem. So that could also be one of the mistakes. I think I'll be able to talk about some few things that stems from several mistakes that you can be looking at in terms of design. Then it doesn't, all of these I've said, does not necessarily have to be for architect alone. The same applies to any sustainability consultant trying to address one or a particular niche in the sustainability journey. Thank you.
All
Maybe just quickly add to that.
Thank you.
Just a quick one, please. You've spoken very well, Dr. Sami, and I just want to add that something that you can do, say, of a mistake that new designers make, and I'll just go back one step earlier than everything Dr. Sami has said, and say you have to even start to think about feasibility. You know, as an architect, you have an ethical responsibility to deliver value for money for your client. You are usually the first person the client will talk to. If the client comes to say, I want to build a school in this site, you have a duty of care to do a feasibility study. If you know there are a lot of schools around that site, and you don't think your client can make profit, or it's useful for this, it's useful for the community to have another school, you have a duty of care to tell the client, Mr. Client, I don't think this is the best investment you can make from this site. Maybe you should do office building instead of commercial shops, because they need more. There are a lot of schools already around, and they're all competing. They don't have enough students. This is a small estate. I mean, it's not like you have a limited number of students. So sometimes we designers don't think that we have that ethical responsibility. Just like a doctor has an ethical responsibility. When you approach him, he's going to prescribe to you what you need based on your situation. He's not going to give you an injection or a tablet because he thinks you are wealthy, or because you ask for something, you give it to you. No, he cannot do that. He has to give you what your body needs. You cannot dictate things, because that's an ethical responsibility placed on him to give you what you need. So we need to think about that carefully. And just because the land is allocated for commercial purpose does not mean we can just use it for anything. You have to look around, and that requires collaborative work. You have to work with estate surveyors and valuers to understand, is this going to be the best use of this land? Because when they say commercial, they don't necessarily specify it must be school in some cases. You might think, oh, you know what, a mixed-use commercial complex may be more profitable. An office building could be better. You know what I mean? Or something like that. All right. So this is just going one step backward. And I just wanted to add that at the early stage, you think about feasibility as well. There's a question that I think is addressed to me about, is there no way we can reach people in academia in charge of university curriculum and sustainability as part of to make these things easy for everyone? I see jump question. How you want me to answer this one now? All right. The thing is, there's so many universities, private, public, they're all scattered over the country. Yes, we have the Nigerian University Commission, which should be leading in this area. But I think at the same time, it's not straightforward, because the academics that are in charge, from the HODs to the lecturers and professors, they have to first of all be aware. You cannot force them to start teaching something that you cannot give what you don't have. They have to have the knowledge, first of all, the awareness of it. All right. So if you reach out to University of Ibadan or University of Maiduguri or ABU and say, put sustainability into architecture curriculum, you don't have enough sustainability. Just like that, you think they'll just wake up one day and then bam, you have sustainability. It requires them to rethink their design studios, to think their building materials courses, their construction courses, their history of architecture. You understand? They might have to create new electives. They might even have to hire new lecturers, because maybe the existing curriculum cannot accommodate the sustainability content. So they have to create maybe like electives. I say, look, this is an elective module. And with time, maybe professional bodies like NIA, Nigerian Engineering Society, and Koren and other people, NIOB, they can all get involved and start to insist that you people should take care of this. Or NUC as a University Commission can also insist that out of your content, we need you in every year to have at least 10% content to cover sustainability one way or the other. There's nothing you are teaching university that cannot contain sustainability. It's as simple as that, because it covers everything we're doing. But how you teach it, which context you teach it, is where we have a difference. You understand? So, but just summary, how do you reach people in charge of universities? Yeah, I can't just call the VC of Unilag and say, I think you should do this. It's not straightforward like that. Yeah, they have to be willing. There have to be a forum for us to have that kind of engagement. They have to be aware. They have to be open-minded, because sometimes I've been to presentations from universities where they were very defensive. They felt, these guys come to tell us as if we don't know what we're doing. No. When you come to make a presentation, none of you came here with zero knowledge on sustainability. You all knew something about sustainability. But we've all grown. I've learned from Dr. Somi. He probably has learned from me. And I've learned from Emmanuel. He has probably learned from me. We are learning from each other. But to have that arrogance to think that, oh, no, we already know what we're doing, and we don't need somebody to come and tell us. No, it's wrong. So this is the challenge. How do you get these people to even understand that they have a problem? That is the main problem. Once you understand they have a problem and they want to address it, then they can do it institutionally or departmentally, or you work with professional societies to make them do this. If you don't do this, we're not going to accredit you the next time we come around. If you don't do this, we're not going to give you accreditation as NUC or to start a new course. You understand? This is how I think I'll answer that question, if you don't mind.
Okay, so in addition, I also like to think that professional bodies have a lot to do with this. Okay, so we also have questions from Babarinde Miriam. She said, would you advise someone with background in architecture and quantity surveying and with a strong passion for sustainable construction to study an MSc in sustainable construction practices or professional MSc in construction project management? She mentioned that sustainable construction practices is not related, like it has little relation with construction line. I think this is for Dr. Somi and Professor Z.
Okay. Before that, I just want to quickly respond. Somebody said, is it safe to say a passion that's not marketable is not sustainable? Yes. If you have a passion and it's not marketable, then it's just a hobby. If it's not marketable, it's just a hobby. You're just an amateur. If you want to make a profession out of it, it has to go beyond passion. It has to go to address needs. Like I have a passion for granite. Does it mean I'll make money from granite because I just love granite or I like plantain? Does the market need it? Can I make money from it in a sustainable way, in a profitable way? Then yes, that makes it something worthwhile. Otherwise, you can have a passion. That's why many people just open all kinds of businesses and they fail because they think it's based on their passion. Okay, there's a book called So Good They Can't Ignore It. I'll encourage you to read it if you want to learn about how passion can be dangerous. You need to craft your skill by hard work, by dedicated learning. Okay, let me just answer that quickly. So the other one was about I advise someone in background architecture with conserving, architecture and conserving. That's interesting. With a strong passion for sustainable construction to study MSc Sustainable Practices, a research-based course with relation to construction line, or professional MSc in Construction Project Management. The person is willing to further their PhD. No. If you want to do PhD, I would not advise you to go for the professional MSc. Go for the one that has a research aspect. It will be more useful to you because you pick up some research skills that will be valuable for PhD. The professional MSc is meant for people who are in industry, who just want to apply, some master's level kind of higher level learning to their practice already. They're not interested in research. Sometimes they don't even do dissertation, they just do coursework and some projects here and there. But with the MSc that's research based, you're going to have a thesis or dissertation. You're going to learn how to collect data, analyze data, and all that. So it will prime you better for a PhD degree. I hope that makes sense.
Dr. Somi, I think the person would also like to hear from you.
Yeah, I think Prof has already answered it. And partly, let me just read it. I think I also privately answered this question to the person. I'll just read out my answer. I didn't even realize that the person intended to pursue at the PhD level. And I think Prof has dealt with that. If you are intending to pursue at PhD level, an MSc with a research-based is king. Then my response was that if your long-term vision is to become a leader who shapes the future of the built environment, whether through green building, climate smart infrastructure, or maybe sustainable urban development, then sustainability studies will position you for greater opportunity both locally and globally. And interestingly, you have a background in quantity surveying and architecture. So you already have strong technical foundation. So adding sustainability to your credentials will give international collaboration as well. Then, of course, things around carbon management role, ESG compliance role, green project, and maybe LCCs and all of that. But for construction project management, in quotes, a professional master's, right? It is valuable as well, but it keeps you within the traditional path. So you are looking at just being on the path of the now, rather than, because sustainability will open the door for you for a higher impact, and of course, it's a future-ready role, where construction project management is majorly is like the path for the now, which is good. It makes sense as well. And if you intend to go in the line of project management, then you can be looking at that. But if it's going to be a PhD, then for me, I would encourage you do a research-based, but based on your niche. So if your niche is to continue to project manage, even if you're going to be running a PhD at the end of the day, if majority of things you want to do revolves around project management, then you could look for MSc in project management that are research-based, right? But if you're looking to diversify and come to things around sustainability in the construction industry, then MSc in the sustainability space would go a long way for you. So that's my little addition to that.
All right, thank you very much, sir. We also have from Prince Emmanuel. Out of all the career paths outlined, what are the most recommended based on impact and profitability? Let me add, maybe based on the 21st century career paths. So this is for Dr. Somi and Dr. Z.
Okay. Well, I saw the question. This is why I went to this slide. I hope you can still see my slide. Because I summarized the career pathways into different segments. And it's not a straightforward question, because somebody can be from a quantity surveying background. What is profitable for them may not be profitable for somebody who is in architectural background. You understand? And where they are located. Are they in a city, in a town, in this country? Are they, what are their career stages? Are they early career? It's not straightforward. But if I was to look at this, let's say, for example, renewable energy, just from the top of my head, if you're interested in something that's profitable, then we can say, you know what, right now, either you go solar engineering or energy storage systems. Those are the two things that will give you profit, because everybody is worried now. For the first time in our history, Nigerians are actually paying for the electricity they consume. Well, most of us don't have smart meters. Before, they just estimate and give you nonsense. You bribe them, pay half, and you go home. But now people are actually paying for what they consume. So people are now going solar because they're like me, for example, in Nigeria, my house, I'm completely off grid. I don't care about NEPA, or is it whatever electricity company they call it in whatever town I'm living, eco electricity, whatever. I don't care. I'm completely off grid. So solar engineering and deployment is going to continue to be profitable. And I think it shouldn't be a strategy for the government to encourage people to go solar, because if they go solar, there'll be less pressure on the national grid. Then the little electricity we're bringing from Kanji Dam or Sururu or wherever, we can use it to service our industries. Because once we take houses off the national grid, this makes it more resilient. We don't have to worry, there's a collapse of the national grid. So people in Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, for the next 1 month, no electricity for you. So this is like de-risking business. So solar is very good for that purpose. So that's why it's going to be very profitable, not just for houses, but if you can put your schools off grid, your shops go off grid, this will help a lot, make us more sustainable, and we will need very little. And there's a lot of opportunities in that area, existing buildings. Why I mention energy storage as well is because you cannot have solar without storing energy. So those two go hand in hand. So those are two areas. If you go to the climate tech and innovation careers, I would say AI for sustainability is going to be very profitable among all the ones I've seen here. Not that others will not be profitable, but all of them will almost to an extent use AI. Because you go to property technology or context, in today's world, you probably will use AI. Smart manufacturing and low waste will probably use a bit of AI. So sustainability innovation startup, you probably will use AI because AI is one of the most state-of-the-art technologies that we're using today to help us automate and become better. So AI for climate tech, AI for sustainability. How you read that is up to you because there are branches of AI, machine learning, artificial neural networks, fuzzy logic, large language models, genetic algorithms. There's so many branches of AI. It's not just ChatGPT. ChatGPT is just a branch of language models, which itself is a branch of natural language processing, which itself is a branch of artificial intelligence. So when we say AI, you think, Gemini, Notebook LM. No, that's a small subset of a subset of AI. Okay. So, but AI in general, yes, I would say that's most profitable. And maybe what was the word again? Most impactful and most profitable. Then there's the data, AI, and sustainability career as is unique because it brings data and AI together. I would say out of these ones that I've listed here, I would say predictive modeling of energy and risk will be the most profitable and the most impactful. Because if you can predict energy and model energy needs and the risk involved in them, you can help energy companies, individuals to plan for a future that is resilient, that is sustainable. I'll give an example, and this is just something I've said in a few cases that I'd like to share with you. Let's take Dangote, for example. He has built a refinery, and for the first time in our history, a long time, fuel is flowing. It might be a bit more expensive than we expected, but at least there's fuel. Even those people in Nigerian government are trying very hard to sabotage him, which does not make sense, but we are Nigerians, we're capable of doing crazy things, but he's trying to do his best. And in Nigeria alone, I think most of his money comes from, I don't have access to his records, but I think most of his profits come from petrol. Now, I know he does other things, maybe fertilizer or aeroplane fuel is what did you call it? Aerospace, airline fuel, whatever, maybe petrochemicals and other things. I'm sure his refinery will do other things, but I believe that his most profit comes from petrol. Okay, so the thing is, if Dangote is making most of his money in Nigeria from petrol, and you look at what is happening in Europe in particular, where we get a lot of our cars from, most new cars now in Europe are becoming electric. In fact, there are laws in the EU and the UK that make it mandatory for all your new cars, at least, I think for now, for 30% for them to be electric. In the next 5 years, 60 to 70% have to be electric. Then in the next 10 years, 100% of your cars have to be electric. And if you have 30% only electric, the 70% they will fine you for any petrol or diesel car you produce, you pay extra fine. So you're actually in a hurry to become more and more electric. So you stop paying those fines. Do you know what this means? Because apart from Innoson, nobody else manufactures cars that are usable by the general public to a large extent in Nigeria. So we're largely going to be dependent on Europe and UK and North America for our cars for the foreseeable future. So that means in the next 5 years, a lot of imported cars you start to see electric cars coming in. In the next 10 years, it's almost guaranteed that majority of new cars that come to Nigeria, all these are government officials, they're going to be electric cars. The Tokumbo cars that will come will be electric cars. Where are you going to charge them? Are you going to go to Shema Oil or Forte Oil or NNPC Oil to go and charge your electric car? No. That's why in the UK, for example, every new building has to have a charging station because they know in future people will just plug their cars when they come back home. In every parking lot you go to, in a school, in a shopping mall, in an office, wherever you go, you find that 30 to 30% of the parking lot is reserved for electric vehicles. You cannot park there if your car is not electric because there's a charging point where you plug your charge and you charge your car while you're doing your business. So why is this important? This is about predicting modeling energy risk. Is somebody sitting down with Dangote now and predicting the impact of this on his business? Because if in the next 10 years, in my opinion, if he does not make his money from petrol locally in the next 10 years, he's going to be in trouble. Because you can't, okay, now we're even doing CNG. But our CNG conversion are meant to convert petrol cars or diesel cars to CNG. When the cars are now electric, the technology of conversion will not be the same. So we should stop what we're even doing with CNG now and wait and see. How can we convert? CNG is good because we have plenty of gas and it's clean relatively to petrol. So if we still want to keep using a natural resource of CNG, we should start thinking about how can we convert CNG to electric charging? Or we can use CNG to run renewable energy things that can charge our this thing. Because if not, in the next 10 years, you will have a petrol station, but you end up running generators so that people can come and plug their car. Does that make sense to go to a petrol station that has collected petrol, maybe 10,000 liters or whatever, but they have to run a generator so that people can line up and plug their car, because cars will now come with socket and you plug it. So we're not thinking that far. We think we have petrol. Yes, a lot of the cars we have now, many cars will still be petrol and will carry on for the next maybe 20, 30 years because we're not producing cars. But their spare parts will start becoming less and less available because those who are producing those petrol cars will stop making the spare parts. They will not be doing it because of Nigeria. So we need to think ahead, and that's why predicting modern energy risk is very important. You have to think about what's going on in the next 10 years. It's not about today. That's why sustainability is about tomorrow. What will happen in the next 10 years? So with all due respect to Dangote, I hope he's not listening. I'm not attacking him. I wish I was his sustainability advisor. Dangote, if anybody sees this video and send it to him, tell him I'm looking for a job to be sustainability advisor. But I would say, Dangote, let's start making plans to install wind farms, solar farms, so that you start making money in the next 10, 15 years. Otherwise, the petrol that you are depending on now, believe me, it's a big risk. If you don't make the money you need to make from your petrol, you will still be making a little money because many people cannot just change overnight. But it will be drastically reduced because when electric cars start coming, nobody's going to go to petrol station to go and charge their car with petrol. They will either do it at home with their solar energy, or they'll go to a petrol station, and those petrol stations will have to now buy generators so that they can run their generator with petrol so that you can come and charge your car with petrol and run generator. Does that make sense? It doesn't. So the best way to get renewable energy that is fit for electric cars is through wind and solar. And that's where I think he should be thinking about making his next factory. I think he should be thinking about that. So that's why this to me is going to be profitable, being able to predict modeling and energy and risk. For disaster resilience, I will go for infrastructure and community risk assessment. Why? Because we have a lot of infrastructure we're building, train railway lines, roads, bridges, flyovers that we mentioned earlier. But also apart from that, even the communities themselves are at risk: security risk, agricultural risk, desertification, food security. So infrastructure and community risk assessment is going to be very profitable, in my opinion, because if you can assess the risk that, okay, I'll give an example. During Buhari's regime, he wanted to encourage farmers, and I think he did quite a lot to encourage local farming. But I think things like COVID came and messed things up for him. But at one point, he closed our borders. You know why he closed our borders? There were two reasons. One was that he wanted us to stop importing rice and all those things so that our local farmers will be patronized, which is a good plan. But secondly, there was some security implications. I think he wanted to stop the inflow of illegal arms and all that. But mostly it was because of agriculture initially. But the problem is that you close the borders, but then you have bandits that are going around and stopping people from farming, attacking farmers. That was why food was very, very expensive during Buhari's time. Because on one hand, food is not coming in. On the other hand, farmers cannot go and farm. When they farm, they have to pay huge ransom to harvest their crops. If you're not aware of this, go and read your news. This was what was going on. You understand? So it was a risk that we were taking. There was food security risk was involved, apart from personal security and safety. You understand? And then, of course, the infrastructure is we're building railway lines and roads, but we're not thinking about how resilient they will be in a world where the River Niger can just burst its bank tomorrow, or River Ogun can just flood its banks and wash away. Look at Kaduna Abuja railway line. When I was in Nigeria over the summer, it was washed away at one point, I think, by rain. People and the train people didn't know until they started moving from Kaduna to Abuja. They got somewhere and it derailed. We didn't have the sensors or the technology to tell us that the rail line has collapsed. Then the train came and didn't know. And imagine, this is not a pothole. How can a train line be washed away and you don't even know? Because we are not doing what? Risk assessment. We're not having Internet of Things and things that can help us understand the future. So this is what I feel will be the most profitable. For education and training, I'll simply go for sustainable education and curriculum design because I think it's a low-hanging fruit. The other ones are a little bit more complicated. They will not be profitable or so easy to achieve. But if you go into curriculum education, curriculum design and sustainability education, you're likely going to make some money because, like we mentioned earlier, there's a need, there's a hunger or a lack of knowledge and skill on sustainability. So how you're going to do this, you're probably not going to make a lot of money if you do this in university unless you sell handouts. And I don't know if Nigerian university professors still sell handouts, but in my days when I was schooling in Nigeria, they used to. But that's not what I meant by profitability in education. No, I mean, you deliver short courses, you do workshops, you do all kinds of things, and so on and so forth. So like this event is probably free, but you could do a specialist event that is paid for. Emmanuel and they're doing so. Next time, I'll be expecting my cut when you organize a course like this. I want me and some me want a percentage because this is knowledge we're dashing you free of charge. You understand? In many parts of the world, you go and you pay. You pay to listen to things like this. You learn. People are just asking for slides up and down in the charts. You think it's easy to come up with things like this and just dash it for free? Yes, we do it because we love our country. But in most parts of the world, you pay for it. And if you pay for it, that means we can give you the materials for free. And you can consult us in your spare time and other things, and we give you extra additional customized question and answer and mentorship and the rest of it. So there's a huge space there for people to make a lot of money from. You see, let me tell you something. They say if you have a solution to somebody's problem, you have a business. And there's a problem right now. People don't know a lot about sustainability and it's many facets. So that's a problem. So if you can find a solution to it, you are in business. Let me stop there. I hope that makes sense. Mr. Emmanuel?
Thank you so much, Prof. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, you have been able to break everything down to know what and what's going to be more profitable for us based on the categories of careers that you have listed out. Thank you so much, sir. And this has been very, very educative.
Send my percentage, 15%. Me and
no problem,
15%.
sir. We appreciate you so much, Prof. This is actually a free class.
I will send my OP. What is appreciation? I will send my OP account. You have my mobile number, Nigerian number. Send somebody who is expecting his own cut. If you didn't charge people, that's your problem. That's your problem. Next time you charge people, and I'm not saying you should charge people, to be honest, but I'm just saying, if you look at it realistically, this could have been a very, very technical workshop that that could be much deeper. It could be 1, 2 days or 3 days long over in the evenings or weekend, and people will be prepared to pay, get a certificate of some sort, and everybody will benefit from it. Right now, my presentation could have been much deeper, but I had to shorten that because people said I could speak for only 30 minutes. By the time I was like 20-something minutes, Doing was harassing me, hurry up and finish, I have 5 minutes left, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But if people paid, you think they will listen to you doing? If the people paid, they say, please allow him to talk. We paid money. Let him talk. Sorrow, Prof, sorrow, all those sort of things. So there are many opportunities, to be honest, and you can bring facilitators that can help you make this work. So this is something we could look into in future if you're interested. Okay, that's it for me. Sorry.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. That was an amazing session. I believe we have one other question. Should we take that, or how do we go about this? Okay.
Why not? If you don't take the question now, next time this person will not come and pay for the course. So let's take everybody's question.
All right, sir. Okay, said for someone who has background in quantity surveying and MTech in project management and who has interest in financial sustainability, is it advisable for circular economic concepts? Is it advisable to go for circular economic concepts, or which other sustainable career paths would be advisable for this kind of person?
I wish that was cut. Can you repeat it again?
Okay, the person is asking that he has background in both quantity surveying and MTech in project management.
I've seen it. Let me just read it. For someone who has background in quantity surveying and MTech in project management, who has interest in financial sustainability, okay, so it's a QS with MTech in project management, and he's interested in financial sustainability, is it advisable to go for circular economy concept, or which other sustainable career path will you advise for that person? I think to future-proof yourself, I would say go for circular economy, because it's like the senior brother of sustainability. It's like the new buzzword. Sustainability is there, but circular economy makes a lot more comprehensive and inclusive approach to things in a circular way beyond mere sustainability. You understand? It may look like it's all about environmental aspect, but it's beyond that. There's also the social aspect and the rest of it. Like I said earlier, when you want to, a client comes to you and wants to do a building, one of the first questions you can ask him for circularity point of view is, are you sure you need this building? That is a circular question. Because if it doesn't need the building, why do you want to build it? Is it an investment? Okay, fine. Are you sure you're going to make profit? That's why you look at feasibility study to see whether or not if I build this office complex, I can make money. Don't just go and build shopping complex because everybody's building shopping complex. Much are they charging? Are you sure they're not even losing money? You understand? Because when you build more office complex in an area, the price of per square meter will go down. and it not be profitable for you and everyone. So you might want to do something else. Let me do a bowling alley or a sports, indoor sports, whatever, or a mall or something different. You understand? So I think circular economy has more longevity because sustainability is there, but it's now becoming a bit more sophisticated. People have started bringing out different ways of looking at it, like the donut economics or circular economy. So I think if you do circular economy, you probably cover the relevant aspect of sustainability that you're interested in, which is probably the financial side. But don't stick to the traditional sustainability and just say, I'm only interested in economic sustainability. Why? Because economic sustainability cannot exist without social sustainability, which will be useless without environmental sustainability. They are all interlinked. But circularity integrates all of them in such a way that whatever product or service you're doing, you're looking at economic, social, environmental, people, technology, and everything in a circular way. You see, you cannot look at a car that's secondhand and say, oh, the door is sustainable economically, but the steering is not financially sustainable. Everything has, is all part of the whole package. So this is my advice to you. I think you should go for circular economy and understand what it is from a basic principle and see how you can transition yourself into a career pathway that will be profitable. Again, it's not just about passionate. This may be just your passion. Make sure you can make money from it. Make sure you can get a job from it. If nobody needs it, then it's just a hobby. If nobody needs it, it's just a hobby. Or you're just an advocate, which is okay. When people advocate for human rights and they don't take money for it, like Gani Fawemi was known for that. He advocated for human rights. He didn't always take money when he fought for people. And the other lawyers that will do it today, it's just out of passion and advocacy. But if you're a professional, you want to survive and pay your rent, you might as well want to take a look at whether or not who will pay me, who will pay me to do this as a consultant, who will hire me to work for them in this role. If you don't think about that, then you're not really planning your career very well. Where will you see yourself in the next 5 years? It will be good to have a mentor. Like I think Somi mentioned that mentorship earlier. You'll be able to have a mentor who has gone through this kind of role, even if they're not in Nigeria. Look at somebody who has transitioned from being, is it an architect? What do you call yourself? Sorry, quantity surveyor and a project management, and they move into circularity. Find them, LinkedIn, wherever you need to, and study their career pathways. Connect with them, ask them questions. You understand? And then plan your career. Where do you see yourself in the next 2 years or 1 year? Maybe you need to get some certifications. Give yourself that deadline. Then in the next 3 years, where else do you see yourself? And in 5 years' time, where do you want to be? And you keep repeating that again and again, because what we're talking about today will be redundant in the next 5 years. So there's another question. I don't know. Yes, it's addressed to me. I'm pretty much interested in climate communication and public outreach. Okay, that's good. You're probably a mass communication person, a journalist, a blogger, or a TikTok dancer. I don't know who you are. I'm sorry, I'm just playing with you. But if you're interested in communication, climate communication and public outreach, are you open to teach more if we organize this type of webinar at my school, especially my department, ABU Zaria building? ABU Zaria. I will charge you people money. In fact, you people will ban me from passing that Samaru. Yes, I'm happy to do this. I'm happy to do this, but I'm trying to see the connection between climate communication and public outreach. It's important, but it seems to have from the Department of Building, which is a bit strange. I thought you would be maybe Department of Public Mass Communication or Journalism or Media Studies. But hey, who knows? Maybe you as a builder, you engage with people where I don't know. Maybe I don't know. If you can elaborate more so that I understand the context, because to talk about climate communication and public outreach in a Department of Building, it can be done, but I need to know who am I talking to. You understand? Is this your topic that you are interested in, or is it a topic that your department wants? So you need to clarify that clearly, so that I don't prepare a slide that builders will like, what is all this communication memo, podcast, YouTube channel, and so on and so forth. You understand? I don't want to go and mess myself up. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Cynthia and Bonam. I hope I got that now. I think I got that right. I'm happy to do that. Hopefully for a fee, because I think it's time we start charging you people money, because when people don't pay for something, they don't tend to value it. I'll give you my personal certificate, Dr. Z certificate of communication and public outreach in sustainability. Everybody that attends. Anyway, I'm just kidding. We can talk about this later on. Let's communicate. If you're not on LinkedIn, reach out to me. We can see how we can organize something, but we need to be clear about. Okay, so you say yes, sir. I engage with people more into public outreach. PS as part of Group 1 member of YE. Oh, I see. Yes, I remember Cynthia now. Yes, Cynthia, I remember you now. Okay, yes, I remember you. Okay. But like I said, you have to be careful because you said your department, under your department building, you obviously are into outreach, but building people are not outreach people. Let's tell ourselves the truth. They are builders. They build. You know what I mean? So let's be careful how we package that presentation so that it's not just about what you want, Cynthia. It benefits everyone in the department. We can talk about public outreach, but we need to clarify and all that. We need to also discuss date and time, and hopefully maybe my OP account and all those sort of things I always talk about. All right. I don't know if Dr. Somi has anything to add to anything I've said earlier, but that question was directed to me. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Somi, please, you can go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. I wanted to talk about the financial sustainability. Just wanted to add one thing to what Prof has said. I think Prof has dealt well with it, talking about you going in the direction of circular economic concepts. Yes, it's very critical. However, being a quantity surveyor, I am one, and currently I'm treading the path of financial sustainability. So I would like to also indulge or try to encourage you to look in the direction of ESG. ESG is critical and king for things around financial and investment. So when you're talking about financing, you're talking about investing in the sustainability space. ESG concept is one critical area you should look in the direction of. Then the other area that you can also target is carbon market and carbon accounting. It's a newbie. It's a new thing, a new trend. And for some reason, there is a policy now in Nigeria that is going to be enabling carbon markets in Nigeria. So that is something you can cash into. We've got, I would say, less than 1% that have expertise in this space. So if you are looking in that direction, this could also help you move faster in your career line. Just wanted to add those two things. So if you're looking at financial sustainability, you can look at some ESG manager course, you can look at ESG investment courses, and something around carbon accounting, carbon market and all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Okay, I think this brings us to the end of this event. Thank you so much, Dr. Somi and Professor Z. Thank you so much for blessing us from your wealth of knowledge. Architect Emmanuel. Hello, Architect Emmanuel. Are you still with us?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I think this has taken longer than expected, but it has been a very, very interesting conversation, and I don't regret being here at all. I want to express my appreciation to our resource persons, Dr. Zeb and Dr. Somi, once again. Thank you so much, sirs, for your time and for being a part of this. Thank you. We appreciate you so much. To all our participants who are still here from the beginning till this time, we're saying thank you for being with us and for making this a successful outing. This is just to remind all of us that this is part of the program of the Green Horizon Network, the youth wing of the Green Building Council Nigeria. And we're encouraging all of us to be very active in all the activities that will go on the group from now going forward. And also to also inform us that from January 2026, 1st of January 2026, GHN is going to be a members-only group. That's the Green Horizon Network is strictly going to be for registered youth members of the Green Building Council. So all members that are currently in the Green Horizon Network are expected to also be youth members of the Green Building Council. And I think that registration is just about 6,000 naira annually. Donia, am I right, or Morisola?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think it's just around 6,000 naira annually. So please, let's all try to do that registration. I mean, I don't think there's anybody here that cannot pay a 6,000 naira registration fee annually. Okay, so we are going to be having more of this kind of educational session. We're going to be having another one by December. I think that should be, sorry, give me a minute. Okay, so we'll be having another one. Oops. I had that date somewhere. 20th of December. 20th of December, we'll be having another webinar like this. Very, very educative and impactful for us. But as from the 1st of January, if you're not a registered youth member of Green Building Council, we'll have to remove you from the Green Horizon Network group. So please, this is me encouraging every one of us so that we'll continue enjoying all that we enjoy. That the group is actually a platform to raise green ambassadors that are going to transition into leaders, just like we're talking about early career pathways now. You know, when you develop yourself and have the right skill set, certifications, be part of the right organizations, you could also transition to becoming directors tomorrow and heads of committees and all of that in the council. And that is how you grow in this career. So please, let's do well to comply, and I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful journey for us all. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Please also tell your friends to join, tell your friends to register. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Once again.
Talking about telling your friends to join, I'm going to put that up on the group. If you're able to get 5 of your friends to join, I'll be paying your registration fee. So if you don't want to pay money for the registration, get 5 persons to register, and I'll pay that for you. I'll do your registration for you free of charge. Thank you so much, Professor Zeb. Thank you so much, Dr. Somi. God bless you all. We are so grateful. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, sirs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be sharing the registration link on the group. So please just head over to the GHN group and the youth membership registration link will be there. You could also reach out to myself personally, or just reach out to Morisola or Doing. I'm sure one of us will be able to guide you on how to go about it. But the registration link will be on the GHN group. Morisola, please drop the link to the group, to the GHN group, so that whoever wants to join can get in from here. Adekoya.
Yes, sir. Ed, I will drop it right away.
Okay, please. Let's do that quickly so that we can end this session. Okay, so for those of you who are not on the group, you can use this link to join the group, and then we'll take it up from there. Okay, you can join the group, the Green Horizon Network, from this link, and we'll take it up from there. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.
Thank you all.